Welcome back to the 4th episode of League Weekly. I'm here in the studio. My name is Travis Gafford. If you don't know me, I do League of Legends stuff. But who cares about me? Let me introduce you to all my co-hosts for the show, at least 2 of the 3. Mark Zimmerman is to my right. How's it going, Mark?
Pretty good. I had not been sleeping too much over the weekend, so I just slept for 12 hours today, and I feel amazing.
Why did you not sleep?
There was the MSI Play-in stage. The call time was kind of early.
Yeah.
There's a party.
Yeah, I saw you at the party on Friday night. So really, is it the party that was the issue?
That was a big problem, yeah.
Yeah. Well,
but I mean, as long as you're ready to go in the morning, you're good.
Yeah. You know someone who spends every weekend partying? Emily
She's
Rand.
out of control.
Yeah. Emily Rand, how are you?
I'm well, thank you.
And how was your party weekend?
I watched a lot of League of Legends. I was around to write up the China LPL franchising news at like 9 o'clock on a Saturday night. So it should tell you about how interesting my life is.
What was your life like before League of Legends? Because it seems like so much of your life is League of Legends now.
I read a lot. I painted. I watched a lot of anime.
Okay. Very good. Well, and without further ado, our guest for the first half of the show today is Moon. How's it going, Moon?
Going pretty good.
All right. And how's the off-season treating you?
It's pretty depressing.
Okay.
The only thing I've done is I went to the party. And that's like the only exciting thing that I've done in the past 2 weeks. So
Yeah.
I have the exact same problem. As soon as off-season hits, you realize...
I'm excited for it. I'm like, oh, yes, I can get...
Yeah, you're like,
I can take a break from everything, and then it hits you. And
you get you get 3 days in. 3 days of nothing, you're like, this is amazing. Day 4, you're like, kill me.
Yeah, exactly.
I mean, exactly. It's so strange to me because so many of the pros are all talking about how they don't have any free time, and then you get all this free time and you don't know what to do with it.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
You're kind of lost. That's why I'm here.
Yeah.
I'm so bored that...
If he had anything else to do...
I'm just kidding.
Not be on.
And that's
Guys,
Moon.
please tweet at Moon.
Kelsey will be joining right now. No, yeah. So for those of you tuning in and wondering where Kelsey is, she'll be rolling into the show. We'll bring her TV in here in about an hour after we say goodbye to Moon. But the first part of the show, because it's kind of been a quiet week, is just talking to Moon about FlyQuest, his takes on some of the NA teams, so much more. And just kind of a free-flowing conversation here. Moon, let's start off with just a little bit of conversation. How are things going with FlyQuest in the offseason? I assume you guys aren't, like many other teams, trying to figure out what your roster is going to look like. You had a pretty good split.
Yeah, I think we're just kind of chilling. Actually, today, the rest of the team is doing something in Malibu.
Okay.
With some video shoot in like eye testing technology or something like that, and I'm here.
Would you rather be in Malibu?
Malibu's nice.
I don't know. I didn't really, they sent us like the plan of the day yesterday, and there's something about
itinerary?
an itinerary.
Yeah.
And there's something about like a upper body massage.
Okay.
In there.
Wow.
So after I saw that, I was like, maybe I should cancel my my League Weekly appearance and try to make it over there. But other than that, it's all pretty boring. Like, I think Lemon just got back from Vancouver a few days ago. He stayed for a little bit longer than everyone else. All Tech's in Vancouver still just at home, and Hai doesn't live with us, so it's just kind of just moved my computer and stuff to my room, and I've just been chilling and streaming and stuff.
Nice.
All right, as someone who cares about health and fitness apparently a lot, I have to ask this stuff because it bothers me. I see it on Twitter all the time, and I don't know where it started, where it came from. Like, the term Brody just came out of nowhere with all like the NA junglers being like 15 years old. And then I don't know where that started, but it's apparently a big thing. And then staying hydrated. That was a great action shot right there.
Yeah. I don't think it showed me on the camera.
Yeah, hold on, there you go.
There we go.
Oh, that sounds great.
Yeah,
so tell me, like, what is the deal with both those kind of like memes?
I really don't know what to tell you.
Didn't you come up with them? Like, how does the original?
I mean, I have a best friend. His name is ZX on Twitter, and I think
best friend might be an under exaggeration.
And I always just called him Brody. Like, I don't know, just as a joke. I didn't come up with the term. Like, people actually say it. Not very many people, but I started calling him that, and I feel like it just kind of like now everybody says it, and it's become a meme. Acadian's my Brody. You got a lot of Brodies.
You got Dardock in there.
I got Dardock. Dardock's my Brody. So it just kind of happened.
Yeah, it does feel like the North American junglers are closer to each other than any of the other roles.
Yeah.
I don't know. Is there any reason why? Like, do you guys just all hang out together? Or,
I don't know.
A lot to talk about.
I don't know about hang out. I think jungle is like kind of just a role where you want to talk to the other people and like get their thoughts on things more so than other roles. So I guess that's why.
Yeah, I mean, like for us, Dom was always one of like the most talkative players. He always talked to like reign over junglers from other regions.
Yeah,
like he would talk to like Korean junglers out.
Yeah,
of
exactly.
So, like,
I'm the same way. So it's like once I joined LCS again, I was like, okay, I'm gonna like make a lot of good friends and be public with it because it's pretty good branding. Like a lot of people know me as like, oh yeah, Moon and Acadian. Like that's who I am to a lot of people. I mean, which is better than not being known at all.
Yeah, so. I've been trying to force that narrative for a while, ever since we did the Moon and Acadian.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. I mean, how? Yeah, okay. So obviously there's the Moon and Acadian thing. How does Dardoch fit into all that?
Dardoch. So we have a Brody chat on Twitter.
Is this true?
This is actually true.
Okay.
And Dardoch just like wasn't participating. So we actually made a new one without him.
You banished him from the Brody chat?
I mean, it was like 3 weeks, and he just, he would read the messages, but he wouldn't participate. So
you think he was just like scoping you guys out?
Something like that, yeah.
Does it weird you out when people who are not one of your Brodies starts using that term? Like just like randoms on Twitter? Like Travis starts.
No, I get DMs all the time from fans, and they're like, "Can I be your Brody?" And it makes me cringe inside.
You're like, what about when you see Travis? Travis started saying Brody out of nowhere, and I'm like, dude, Travis, you look like you're 40. Like, leave these kids alone, you creep.
I mean, and when I went to the party, everyone would come up to me, put their arm around me. What's up, Brody? So
okay.
I want to stop it, but it's too far in.
I want to pass the discussion.
Yeah, we'll stop it right now.
To Emily, because I know she's just sitting here, thinking this stuff is a waste, and she's very obsessed with the jungle, is my understanding, since she's come on board. So what more serious questions do you have for Moon here?
Me?
Yes. Jungle pathing, FlyQuest, TSM, anything?
I mean, I guess you didn't watch the MSI.
No, not at all.
I did want to get your opinion because this is happening a little bit more in the playoffs with Ivern and Graves priority. But I know, I feel like you've been asked that a lot. So.
Well, I think Graves is bad.
Really?
Yeah, I stopped playing Graves at a certain point, and there's a website called Games of Legends or something, and you can see the picks of the week and go back, and Graves had a 20% win rate or 25% win rate for 2 weeks in all the regions with 200 games played. So he won 50 games and lost 150 or something crazy like that. And I already thought that Graves was kind of bad, so I just stopped playing him and started counterpicking him more. And then everyone started playing Ivern in scrims. And then I stopped having fun entirely. And that's when I was like, please give me off season. I don't want to play this.
I don't want to play Ivern anymore.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, why do you, for those that aren't familiar with the jungle, why do you hate Ivern so much?
He just takes no skill. He's the most frustrating champion to play against because you're about to kill someone and then 600 health of shields come in. And he can do so much. You can't know what Ivern is doing because he doesn't get a leash. He doesn't do anything. He can invade you level 2. He can do so many stupid things, and it's just complete cancer to play against.
Yeah.
So. I think that nobody likes playing Ivern, but they play against it and they're like, screw this. Just first pick me Ivern. That's how our scrims would go. It's a certain team would pick Ivern, and I would just be like, okay, I don't want to play against this, so just first pick me this stupid champion.
Yeah, I'm glad you're not watching MSI then because it's
first pick,
it's
right?
Ivern priority.
Yeah. It's so boring.
So Graves is one of the original counters, kind of still is
to Ivern.
Ivern, yeah. So his priority is actually still pretty high too. Do you think? And this is after he got nerfed and lost the MR on his quick draw.
Yeah. Does that matter though?
I assume not. It matters in 2 matchups, right?
Yeah,
maybe at least.
I don't think it really matters.
Okay, yeah, because he's still priority behind Ivern. Do you think with the nerfs that came into Rengar and Kha'Zix and all that, who would be obviously Ivern's your strongest pick right now? Who comes in second? Third?
Well, for me, my strongest pick is probably Rengar, but it's banned against me. Did he get nerfed again on live?
I think he got nerfed again in 7.8.
It was the Q nerf, right? It wasn't on the playoff patch that I was playing on?
7.6 nerf was the armor reduction, right?
That was a long time ago.
Yeah, that was 4 weeks ago when that patch went live. Technically, even though you played on it weeks ago. Yeah,
it's hard to tell.
Yeah, that was really old.
Yeah, he got nerfed again since I last played him.
Yeah, I think it was the Q nerf.
Yeah, so I'm not really sure how he is anymore, but I would say Ivern is probably the best. I don't know. Ivern versus Graves is supposed to be really good, but it can go really south for the Graves too. If Graves can't, I feel if Graves can't punish the Ivern super early, then Ivern's still gonna take over the game. So.
after that, Elise, Lee, like what do you go? Because that's the thing that everyone's kind of like bouncing around.
Well, my Lee Sin is terrible, so no.
How bad is terrible? Because there's a lot of junglers in the LCS who will be like, oh god, my Lee is awful, I can't.
No, I don't play it.
Okay.
So I didn't play it at all during the season, so that's how bad my Lee Sin is. But I'm gonna learn it for next split for sure.
It's been giving away these strats. What are you doing?
Yeah. Also, you just said you're so bored. Like this is something you could be doing.
Yeah, that's what I am doing. That's the only thing. In Lee Sin, in solo queue, I'm just playing Godfist Lee Sin every game. It's the only way to have fun.
Yeah. I'm kind of curious. You have risen so much over the course of this one split as like a pretty big name. We joke about it being like Moon Acadian, but it's almost unfortunate that this wasn't your first split because then you would have gotten all the hype that some of these other rookies got.
Do you think I would have gotten rookie of the split?
I would have voted for you over contracts, yeah.
I would have voted for me over everybody else as well.
Well, you might not be the most unbiased, person.
I'm not sure.
Rate your own performance. I crushed it.
Right, exactly.
Plus, if you vote for yourself, they throw it out.
Yeah,
that's true. Yeah. Yeah,
hey,
why do people do that? I was kind of close to kind of trolling my vote as well. I didn't know that it was gonna be like public. I didn't know that Riot announced it.
They make it. We've talked about this on like every show.
Yeah. Did you not get the email?
I got the email and I
just don't read it. You just click the link.
Yeah,
that's what I said. I said like no player is gonna read that warning. They have like that.
It was a warning.
Yeah, at the start they're like
yeah, no, I was told that. Oh yeah, like the votings are coming out soon. So as soon as I got the email, I was like kind of excited, and I just clicked the link. I didn't know that it was actually like an email. I thought it was only a link.
Okay, but you know that in the past people have gotten flamed for the voting, right?
I did not know that.
Okay.
Every split.
Yeah.
Whether it's players getting flamed, third-party media people. Like,
well, I've seen people get flamed for like. I guess I haven't. No, like not for trolling votes. I've never.
Yeah, it was C9. C9 last split got the same stuff.
So they did the same thing twice.
Yeah, literally twice in a row. I don't know if it was Smoothie last time. And what I heard this time was that Smoothie didn't even vote. Like someone at the house.
Well, that's what he said. Yeah, right. That's what he tweeted. But
are you calling Smoothie a liar? No. Whoa, you just call Smoothie a liar on air.
If I trolled my vote, that's exactly what I would tweet. I'd be like, man, I never even voted.
It's just one of my teammates.
Why my email got hacked?
Yeah, something like that.
Oh, that's the old school for anything.
Yeah. Okay, so you just weren't aware that was like a thing. You didn't read the email at all.
But I didn't troll my votes.
Okay. So what would have allowed you to know about this? Like, should Riot send these emails out to the managers ahead of time and say like, please explain this to whatever representative you pick?
Yeah, that would be perfect. If someone tells me,
because pro players are not able to read.
Do you read patch notes?
I'm actually really bad with that. Like
that's a lot of players.
I still don't know what the new champions do. I still haven't, like, it's a 5-minute champion spotlight video that I need to watch or like play them for 2 minutes in a custom. I still haven't done that. So
when New Shen got reworked and I was watching Zig play it, he was like level 1 trading with someone and he was like, man, this champ sucks. And I'm like, you're not getting the pull through bonus damage on the sword. And he's like, oh my god. Like,
there's been multiple realizations with Malzahar on our team during the split.
You guys played it all the time.
Yeah, exactly.
That was like when you were most picked.
There was one scrim like in the middle of the split where the enemy mid laner had cleanse, and Lemon was like, "Oh, I can't ulti him. He has cleanse."
That's not even the new thing. That's like
against
Warwick in season 3.
Or like there were a lot of realizations with like his voidlings, like, "Oh, when I ulti him, my voidlings run faster." Or something with like his E refreshing, and Malzahar has definitely been the champion for our team.
Do you think SKT has this problem?
Yeah, for sure. I think every team has like some.
Okay, so you're convinced even the
I didn't even know
are oblivious to this.
I didn't know that Rengar ulti. You know how it like crits on
the closest target.
Yeah, I thought it was just your leap crit on anybody.
Oh yeah, so you were leaping to like a further target.
Yeah, and I was like, where's my damage? And I just figured this out like 2 weeks ago, and I've played probably 500 games of Rengar since.
Do you feel like
this is the kind of stuff like if there's any analysts watching right now, they're just like curling up into a ball and dying.
Yeah.
Do
you feel like you should be reading the patch notes and you just like it's something you should do and you just don't do it?
Yeah, kind of.
I actually disagree a little bit. I don't think like there should be a staff member who's in charge of that kind of stuff.
No. What do you mean? Really?
Well, like, so think about it. Like, do you want all 5 players spending like the hour it takes? Like,
hour. It's like 10 minutes, I think. Like, well, for me at least, because I don't.
But you don't even read them. You just admitted. I think like.
I mean, when I read the patch notes, I read them all, or I do generally.
Yeah.
I haven't recently.
Yeah.
I haven't recently because we were playing on the old patch. And I don't want to read the solo queue patch notes and be like kind of confused and everything. So that's why I haven't read them recently. But I do normally read them and just kind of, it takes 5 to 10 minutes to scroll through everything.
Right. So the reason I think that doesn't work for players is because a lot of the time, one, they don't read them closely, or two, they don't understand them even if they read them. So like when Yasuo came out and they're like, if you get a knock up, you can do the ult in the air. And what people didn't realize that it didn't have to be knock up. It's any form of displacement counts. So like Cop lost a game once because he didn't flash Shyvana ult. And Shyvana ult has like that small knockback, and then the Yasuo ulted off the Shyvana ult. And
like, does that really have to do with like the player reading the patch notes versus
well, that's what I mean.
Staff
Like,
member reading it? Like, does that really?
I think a staff member should tell their players like, this is how this works.
Yeah.
You need to understand that you can ult off a play.
What if it's like everybody reads it over the course of 30 minutes, and then afterwards there's just a 30-minute meeting where people talk about it openly?
That's too smart, is the thing. Like you mean like the team themselves, right?
Yeah. I mean like the players read it. Yeah. Everybody gathers
any
information.
patch. What we do is anytime there's a patch, we would have like an hour, like 30-minute meeting, and I would go through the patch notes and explain everything.
I mean, I think another huge problem is there's a lot in every patch. And by that, I don't mean like the actual list, but there are sometimes like minute changes that will actually have like huge effects. You won't even find out until months later. It's hard for, like, it's really hard for a staff member to put that together as well. Like there are people who do a really good job of like looking at patch notes and breaking things down and stuff, like free resources that players can look at. But my point is, just with everything that's changed, even the most like minute changes and patches can have significant effect, and you won't know until you actually experience it.
Yeah, or sometimes there'll be a change in the patch notes, and like it'll change something so small, and then that people will realize that like that was already a good way to play the game or something like that. So it's kind of hard to tell.
Yeah. I don't know. It's sometimes it's fascinating to me how helpless players are. Yeah, lazy or help. Like it is funny because in some ways you guys, and if I could just generalize all of you as a giant group here, in some ways you guys are like the least lazy. Like I would hate to work as much as you guys do because I know that it's just like endless for weeks and weeks and weeks. And then, in other places, it's like, no, I can't. Yeah, I can't even be bothered to read these patch notes.
That's pretty accurate. Yeah.
Or the email that explains the MVP voting system. Drives me crazy.
I mean, I'm not surprised that. Like, I guess my question is, why are you surprised?
Why am I surprised?
Yeah.
I mean, after all these years, I probably shouldn't be, but it seems like the type of thing where it's like you put in a little bit of effort to read these patch notes, and you can reap really good rewards. Especially if you know your opponents aren't doing it, right? Like you suddenly have like deep, high-level information that they don't have, right? Like that seems invaluable whenever you're playing against them, and yet it's just not something you guys even consider. I would highly suggest this going forward. Maybe during the
I'll give it a lot of thought.
You have all this more time. You can just go back and read all the patch notes for like the last couple.
Or you can go into practice mode and try that flash kick some more.
Yeah, that's fun.
Yeah.
I use Sandbox
Are you
mode
still
a lot.
using Sandbox mode?
Yeah, less than I should be, I think. I think, especially as a jungler, like solo queue is terrible.
Do you think other people are using it yet? Or does the Brody Twitter DM chat have conversation about it?
No, I don't know if other people use it. I think there's a couple players, like, I think when Sandbox mode was still on PPE, Aframu mentioned in an interview that he was using it, which was interesting because I thought I was the only one with like a PBA account and actually using it, but I don't know if anyone uses it still.
I've talked to a couple people, and it's like on and off depending on the person. So like a lot of supports will practice like flash engages. Same with top laners, they'll just do like random combos.
Whenever we would, sorry to interrupt, but whenever we would play in LCS, Balls would like go into Sandbox mode, like on stage to prepare and like practice thresh hooks or like blitzcrank flash hooks.
I thought you were gonna say GP barrels or something useful.
Yeah.
Like,
nope.
Not even
like,
the champions
he would like thresh flash play the fucking Sandbox dummies over and over, and it's just like, what are you doing?
Yeah.
All right, so we have some questions here from the chat that we'll just kind of be filtering in as they're relevant. Shadow Chaz, who's like every week he asks a good question. He says, "What is the situation where Evelynn is the choice for you?"
When I'm feeling really confident, because I think she's pretty bad right now.
Okay, so is this just your BM champion then?
No,
like
definitely
you're like,
not.
I just respect this jungler so much. Like,
I just remember interviewing you after Game 5, and you're like, I shouldn't have picked Evelyn. I can't imagine what we would have done. Like, I can't imagine what I would have done if we'd lost.
Yeah,
the CLG series. Yeah, and I thought that was hilarious.
Yeah, I think she's really bad. So it's like.
So then why ever play her?
She's just like a comfort champion for me. I think. I don't really know. Like, I shouldn't play her. She's really bad in this meta. She's a fine champion, but like just her matchups in the jungle are just like terrible right now.
I mean, do you think people don't know how to exploit her correctly? So you can
no one
obviously.
No one plays against it, and then when they scrim us, they ban it. So it's like they're not playing against it at all. So
are you one of the people who will pick it like nonstop in scrim?
No, I go on and off, kind of depending on like our team's mood and stuff. Like I think before I picked it, the reason why I said that versus CLG, I hadn't practiced it in scrims for over a month, easily at that point. So during the season, like there'd be a week where I would play it maybe a dozen times in scrims or half a dozen times, and then the next week I wouldn't play it at all. But since it's such a comfort champion for me, I felt confident bringing it out whenever, I guess, on stage.
Right. Kind of talking about the champ pool changing over the course of the split. Like at the very beginning, a lot of junglers came out and were like popping off really hard.
Yeah.
Do you think that was like everyone adapting to the players, like Acadian, like people started scouting him more and figuring out what he's doing, or do you think it was actually just the nerfs that came into the top champions and like the jungle nerfs overall?
Definitely both. I think when the season first started, right, it's probably like a mix of them not respecting like Acadian, me, contracts, stuff like that, and also teams being new and just kind of
ganks just working more than they should generally.
Yeah, exactly. And then also the jungle nerfs and the champion nerfs. Like Rengar was just insane in the beginning.
Yeah. And him and Kha'Zix were like.
Yeah, and FlyQuest as a team, like in the beginning, everyone was banning Camille, LeBlanc, Rengar, but we were leaving them up. So I would get Rengar a lot in the beginning of the season, which was amazing. I want to go back to those days.
Yeah. Every jungler right now is like, oh, jungle's underpowered.
I don't.
Are you on that train?
No, I don't understand that. I like it. It's underpowered compared to the beginning of the season, sure, but it's fine, I think. It feels bad, though. I don't think it's underpowered, but it just feels bad to do. If you don't start Wraiths, you do 5 camps and you're level 3.
Oh, yeah.
Like, that just feels terrible to me. So.
I'm Vase asks, is jungle too weak at the moment?
Well, there you go. I just answered that.
Was Travis listening?
No,
I don't think he was listening.
No, it's not. It's not too weak. Okay. It's not too weak, I think.
Though I'd agree that like if you have one jungle clear that is like, or not even clear, but like start that's just clearly optimal is kind of annoying. Where it's like, okay, so you have to start Raptors, and then you might go like full top or full red side clear, or like red down. And some people get really crazy and they just do Raptors blue and like.
Well, I stopped doing Wraith start, actually.
You totally stopped it?
Not totally, but I started going back to like just buff, camp, buff, and going for like level 3 ganks, because everyone was doing Wraith start, which meant they were either doing like 3 camps then recalling, or 5 camps and then pressuring at level 4. So a lot of laners got used to like a different pressure timing. So I started doing towards the end of the split like 3 camps and then going for early mid gank or something like that. But it just feels bad. Like you're just so far behind the other jungler if you don't
like
start
if that
Wraiths.
cheese doesn't work.
Yeah, like I think they should make it so you get level 4 from 5 camps, and then maybe they can like tone down the XP from there. But I don't know, it feels bad. Especially because golems are so out of the way. Like,
well, yeah.
Like you have to, for you to get, if you don't start Wraiths, for you to get level 4, you're basically just committing to a complete farm route. You can't early gank if you have to go to your golems, and it takes like 25 seconds to do.
Right, and then the other thing is like if you don't do the golems on the first clear, they feel bad to take later.
Yeah, exactly. So they got to fix golems, I think.
Shifting gears, so there was this kind of conversation that came up probably the 7th or 8th week of LCS, where Hai did an interview where he said like, oh yeah, FlyQuest, we don't have analysts, we don't have a lot of support. And I forget the context if he was bringing it up in, but it kind of sparked this giant thing on Reddit that was like, FlyQuest, you have a lot to answer for. Like the management of the organization. Hilariously, we turn around and Emily, I think, does the interview with Jeff, right?
Yeah.
Your manager.
Yeah.
And I also brought the question up in an interview with Lemon, I think. And of course, the quote from Hai, where he says that all this stuff is happening, gets all over the front page, and there's like a huge complication. But then all the explanations, like nobody even noticed.
Yeah.
You know, like that nobody, I think, saw the interview on, at least on Reddit, which is where all this conversation spun out. So Do you want to talk a little bit about FlyQuest over the course of this past split and sort of what's been going on with the organization and the support that you may or may not have had, et cetera?
Yeah, when I first got here, like everything was really bad, and I wasn't really expecting that because I was like, oh, I'm joining a team with a lot of veterans, so like things will be in place. But in the very beginning, nothing was like in place. I was sleeping at High's place, and we were like Ubering to Riot to practice because we didn't have computers, which I feel like computers are very easy to get.
Yeah, and kind of important as well.
Yeah, also very important for a gaming team. So in the beginning, everything was very bad, but like it's kind of understandable. It's a brand new org, and they've never like been in esports or anything before.
And they bought it kind of last.
Yeah,
super. The announcement came out kind of last minute. Like people didn't even know who was going to.
Well, I mean, even you joining the team was like a last second.
Yeah, like
need a jungler.
Literally like 2 hours before the deadline. So I guess I went into it with very low expectations. But throughout the split, obviously everything's gotten a lot better. We did have an analyst from like week 4 onwards, but he didn't do like he would answer our questions. Like if we had questions like, oh, how does this interaction work? Then he was in like our Skype group and we would ask him and he'd answer. But until playoffs, like he wasn't doing like scouting reports or anything like that. So I think when High said, oh, we don't really have any analysts or something, it's like he wasn't really doing much for us at the time.
Sure.
But like as an organization, everything has gotten a lot better, and next split is going to be like I think really good.
Yeah.
So
good stuff. Okay, I mean that seems to answer that question again, just in case anybody hadn't heard it. But I mean it's just interesting because I think nobody really has an idea of who FlyQuest is or what FlyQuest is, like as a company and as an organization. You know, like you look at Cloud9, you see Jack, you look at TSM, you see Andy, et cetera.
Yeah,
Hotshot.
and we don't have any like video content out yet.
Right.
So.
Well, it sounds like maybe you're making some in Malibu.
Yeah.
Yeah. Without you're here. Yes, exactly.
Well, they don't need him. They got the star players.
Yeah, exactly.
Right. Yeah. Very good.
When you guys said like, so obviously you had ThinkHard the whole time as well, right? Like, what's he been like as a coach? Because he's always been a little bit of a surprise to me because I knew him back when he was a player more as a jungler, and I was like, oh my god, his Lee Sin's clean. That was pretty much it. What's he like as a coach?
He's good, but it's hard to coach our team, I think.
Because you guys are like such veterans.
Yeah, we have so many veterans that like it's a lot of he definitely like helps control the conversation, and he brings up a lot of points in VOD review. But it's also really hard. I think he has a really hard job. So
you don't want to swap with him?
No, he can play Rek'Sai.
You can sub in the Lee every now because you don't play Lee. And
I don't play Lee. He plays a mean Rek'Sai too. His Rek'Sai is really good. So there's a couple times where I'll be tilted. I'm like, hey Thomas, you can play this game. You can sub in, play some Rek'Sai. He never takes me up on it, unfortunately. But
that's the sign of a good coach. Like, no, I'm not going to put myself in there to play Rek'Sai.
Yeah.
Do you think having an analyst would have helped?
Oh, also
like another analyst?
Yeah. We also had Hermes with us for after IMT got knocked out. I told Thomas that we should contact them because they historically have like lent out players and stuff like that. So I was like, yeah, you should contact IMT and ask them if they can lend out an analyst or a coach or something. And I wanted to try this split review thing where you don't review with all 5 people in the beginning. You split up. So like maybe me plus Balls, and then...
Where did this idea come from?
From GCU, Goldcoin United, a challenger team. I talked to Santorin and their analyst, Alec, a lot, Banquish, and they told me about it and said it really helped them with like arguments, and it felt a lot more constructive after they started doing split review. So I wanted to try it out because we had some of those problems as well, and I think it helped us a lot. It helped me a lot. I felt like I started learning a lot more once we did split review.
Were you always arguing with people in the reviews?
I don't argue, but there's High and Lemon argue about, it's like they're good friends, right? So it's not like they're like hating each other or anything, but they argue about like really stupid things for a long time. And arguing isn't the right word. They bicker at each other. Like, no, you're wrong. I'm right. You're wrong. I'm right. So I think split review helped me a lot at staying sane.
So kind of touching on that, I've been talking to a lot of the other coaches recently, and just about how they approach post-game review and stuff like that. And like the worst thing you can do is kind of get into those kinds of arguments where it like only pertains to a couple people, or it's like mechanical stuff like, did we play this gank right? And it's like pretty useless as a team.
Or you're sitting in review as a jungler and it's like 10 minutes of bot lane talking about how they could do the 2v2.
Right, exactly, like that kind of stuff. So yeah, the split review is something that a lot of teams have started doing, but they often do it after the group one. So did you guys do it so it was like the split one first and then you met up later to look at team stuff?
Yeah, we would do like 5 to 10 minutes of split review and then once it got to mid game or late game, we would group up together.
Okay, I was just wondering because I think like a lot of people do the group up one first, and then people can split up. And if like you don't have anything to talk about, just go get a coffee or whatever.
Yeah, makes sense.
Yeah. CrossFox with 2 zeros instead of O's says, which role is the most impactful in the game this season?
That's a really hard question. I think mid lane is like always the most important role, but jungle impacts mid lane so much that it's kind of hard to answer that question.
Yeah, Emily, you and I were talking about this recently where you were saying that there's something that unites all the MSI teams. Do you want to sort of bring that up?
Oh, yeah. Basically, most, if not all, of the mid-season invitational teams, even the ones coming out of, more specifically, Gigabyte Marines, like even the minor region teams that made it to the next round of the play-in, all have pretty strong like mid-jungle. Like you have Carson, Maple from Flash Wolves, Bjergsen and Svenskeren from TSM, SKT, and then either like Peanut or if they decide to
who's on
Blank,
SKT, that's good.
Faker.
Oh, you didn't go over them. I wasn't sure.
Oh, well, I figured people would assume. And then WE has Shia and Condi, and G2 with Perks and Tricks. So I think that's like a kind of a standard across the board. There's like some really good mid-jungle combos coming in.
Yeah, I mean, is that just sort of, do you think that you can't have like an internationally strong team unless you have like just that really good combo?
Yeah, I think so. Yeah. I think mid-jungle is by far the most important out of every other duo combination. But I think if you're like, maybe there's some team that's super good mid-top together, or jungle top together rather, maybe they can snowball off that. But jungle, being a good team with your jungler is super important.
Yeah. What do you think of your sort of setup with High right now?
My setup?
Well, I mean, just how
synergy,
your synergy, your strength.
You guys have a bunk bed that you share.
I asked because obviously High is known as this guy that's like just great at piloting a team, and so I'm really curious. Like, you have gotten a lot of notoriety this split for being a good jungler. Is there any part of that you would attribute, or is there a great deal even that you would attribute to High and sort of working with him, or him knowing when to call at the right time, or any of this kind of stuff?
Yeah, High is definitely like the most vocal member of the team when it comes to using me. So he'll always, he's really good at communicating. Like, okay, I'm gonna push in this wave mid and let's go invade or something like that. And I'll do the same to him. Like, hey, High, can we push out and go invade? For other roles, it's not quite the same. It feels more like I am the one that leads most of those conversations with the other laners. So I would say High, especially since he's mid lane, it's really important that he can do his job very well for my success. But I think like he's not telling me how to play the game.
Sure.
So which I feel like
he's not like
I honestly
master like Reapered when he was on SKT and just like controlling everyone.
I honestly can't tell if people actually think that or if it's a meme.
They think that.
But yeah, he's definitely not a puppet master. But he's super good. So
yeah, well, I think a lot of it came from, especially like in the old days when they had like the mic checks and like it's literally, and even a little bit
today. I mean, in team fights, he's the one that is mainly talking.
Right. So you'll often hear like those kinds of calls, and it's literally just High talking about everything. And so I think that's where that perception came from. Yeah, is being that.
I mean, he's super good, and I think it's, for me personally, like when I talk in a team fight, I get super distracted, and I feel like I play the team fight really poor. But he's just like, go, flash in. He'll like press tab, ult, go flash. In the middle of the team while he's Orianna ulting or something. It's like, what the fuck?
Yeah, well, so what's crazy is like, they talk about Bjergsen a lot getting worse when he had less vocal members on his team and he had to take on like more of the shot calling role. So like, I see that a lot where like someone's asked to step up and they always say like, I feel like I can't do this other stuff as well. Like they lose, like when we had Dom, there was a point where he became like the big vocal point on the team and we're like, we need you to call this kind of stuff. And he's like, I feel like my pathing just sucks now. Like I'm too busy like thinking about, can I dive bot correctly versus like, where's the most exploitable position? Like where's the enemy jungler? Those kinds of things.
Yeah, exactly.
LL Izento says, is it intimidating challenging High's calls in game? And do you ever do that?
I think I do a surprising amount of calling in game, especially if High doesn't do super well in his lane. But when it comes down to like super late game, I'm a lot less experienced with that, so I kind of let High take over, I would say, most of the time. And if it's ever a point where like he wants to call to do Baron and I want to call to push mid, then I'll just listen to him and I'll be like, okay, let's go Baron, guys.
Yeah.
So even if your team, like, it sounds, just because this has been a topic that I've seen a lot of people talking about, like democratic model of shot calling versus like one person just controlling the game itself. And as the game has kind of gone more, like become more of a team game, that older style of shot calling is less. So would you say, like, I know like we already kind of went over the like high puppet master meme, but it sounds like your shot calling on FlyQuest is a lot more democratic than people might think.
No, not really. Maybe it's like I'm not sure exactly, so I don't want to like say false information or anything. But I would say like generally our scrims at least are maybe like 45% high, 45% me, 10% other people. And it depends. Like sometimes like Lemon will play Thresh or something and he'll talk a ton and he'll control the game. Or Johnny or Alltech will be playing Ashe and he'll like control the game if he's playing well. Or Balls will be playing like Maokai and he'll get super far ahead and control the game. But generally, I would say it's definitely not everybody making calls and talking an insane amount.
So I want to shift gears a little bit. We've been talking a lot about the game and also about FlyQuest. But because you are our first pro player on the show, and also because I feel like in talking to you, you tend to think a little bit more broadly than just stuff. I mean, we were just talking about how you don't read patch notes or the MVP email. So I don't, maybe this is wrong. But, you know, there's so much talk right now about like the business of esports and all this stuff. Do you think other pro players are thinking at all about like the franchise conversations that keep popping up and the permanent partnerships or whatever with the teams?
I don't really know about other people. I'm thinking about it a lot personally. Like I'm trying to, I don't know. I mean, I always try to like make my branding as good as possible, but I'm trying like even more so now with the franchising and everything that's being talked about. I really don't know about other people though. I feel like most of the pros just don't care. They just kind of, and myself included, like you just kind of wing it. You just kind of play the game. You do what you do, and you don't really focus on outside stuff.
Sadly, that holds true for a lot of people in esports. Like, I'm just gonna wing it. That sounds good.
You just do what you're told, do your job, and that's it.
I mean, you say that, but then you also admit that you are thinking about this franchising stuff. What is causing you to consider it so much? Like, why do you think about this?
I don't think it's like super impacting for me. Like, I don't think I'm not thinking about it because it's like, oh, once franchising happens, or if it happens, I'm gonna like lose my job or something. It's not like that. I just think, I don't know why I think about it. I just tend to think about those things. Yeah. I'm not sure.
I think it's probably good that you think about those things.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, I mean, the concern that I often have, and anytime like the league side is making like a pretty big shift, either if that's because like a lot of VCs coming in or, you know, they start talking about franchising or whatever, is that the players' interests are often like kind of left in the dust because there's nobody really, like, you guys are so heads down with the game. So there's really no one that's actively advocating for your interests. The team owners will say they will, but at the end of the day, like, they have their own interests, right? So, I mean, do you ever worry about that, or do you think that any of your other players, I mean, for a while, High was kind of vocal on this stuff.
Yeah. What's the question? So like,
sorry, the question is, do you worry at all that players are getting like kind of left behind, or their interests in this stuff is getting left behind? They're not at the table, right? It's like Riot.
Yeah.
So there's not like you hanging out there being like, well, yeah, but what about how much time we're playing or something like that?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I'd say it's definitely, I feel like it's always been like that, at least for while I've been playing. Maybe before when it was newer, then there was a lot more like Riot to player talk, but I think it's fine because I feel like there's a lot of times where Riot will talk to our management and then our management will ask us for like our thoughts on it. So I feel like I'm still being listened to. Yeah. Which is good.
You don't ever feel like you need to have like a seat at the table when people are making these discussions or these decisions?
I think if Riot like invited players to do that, maybe like 2% of them would go.
Yeah. So that's probably true.
So funny story, way back when they killed lane swaps, the only people who went to the meeting were coaches. They
invited everybody?
They invited everyone. They were like, anyone who wants to come, you can come. Because like me and a bunch of the other people reached out, and it was like Tony, Parth, me, and Hermes were the only three, and Dylan. So those were the people who went.
Well, thank God they killed lane swaps.
You didn't? No!
No, I'm happy.
No!
Lane swaps are terrible.
So, what? Why are they terrible? Okay, this is gonna sidetrack.
It's just chance.
I'm sorry.
No.
We got off the game.
I'm super happy to talk about, like, especially if you guys disagree.
I loved lane swap.
No.
So I want to. So wait, what were you saying? What were you? Their chance? You said
it's just chance. Like if it's so annoying. I don't know. It's just so frustrating to play as a player because it's like, oh, we have this weaker bot lane. We send them top. Do we send them bottom? Are we gonna predict that they're gonna think that we're gonna lane swap? Like, what's going on? And then lane swapping as a jungler is like super boring because they always know where you are. And you're not doing anything early. You're not doing anything until like 9 minutes into the game after the 4 towers have dropped. And then at that point, there's no ganks that are going to happen.
You only played in the turret push meta, right? You never played in like the freeze meta or anything like that where you would like you would pull the wave level 1 and freeze like You played in like the kill the turret and then kill another turret and then kill some more turrets.
That's what I mainly remember.
Yeah.
So
well, that was the meta for like the last year and a half.
I was gonna say in spring there was like it started in Korea, but then I saw it the first week in NA too because Korea had been playing for a week prior. But there would be like just like it did evolve awkwardly at the time you enter the LCS where both of the outer turrets would be down in side lanes, and then there'd be like this super awkward ARAM in the middle where like no one really knows what to do because they're both trying to take mid because there's not much else to take on the map. And I mean, I think there was, and I think it evolved creatively later on once teams figured out like different lane assignments or to Mark's point, like freezing the wave and coming up with different compositions that would benefit like an AD or a top who's freezing. But initially it was like the first part of spring 2016, it was very formulaic.
Yeah. And I was also probably very bad at the time when lane swaps were happening. Well, you guys don't have to agree.
Well, I'm thinking of it. That's right. So, I was gonna let you finish your thought.
Everyone's nodding their head like yeah.
Tell us more about how bad you were.
So maybe I'm just biased towards lane swaps because I was bad at the time.
So when you say you felt like they were chance, I mean, it was always I agree actually to a certain extent that it was chance because you could always mess up. I always felt like there were level ones you could do to like increase your chances of getting it correct. And I still feel the same way about jungling a little bit as a whole, where like you like sometimes your path and the other guy's path is just like, well, we just messed up, and he had like this one opening where like he was able to get around us because the timing just didn't work out. Where like he already got past the scuttle crab as I cleared it, and like I didn't know. Yeah,
I mean, there's definitely what I mainly remember is a lot of like when I was on Energy, a lot of complaining about the lane swaps and like disagreements about like, oh, we can't invade because we can't invade and get all the vision and like get a guaranteed to lane swap because they can just late send their bot lane to us. Or there's just a lot of disagreements, and maybe that's why.
Well, season 6 was weird because they killed warding. You used to be able.
Was that season 6?
Yeah, Well, it was before that. It was season 5. They killed trinket warding. But they changed it even more.
You mean like level 1 warding?
Yeah.
Like buying green wards, right?
Green wards were gone, I think, in season 5. I believe they took them out in season 5, yeah. And then trinket warding was just like, no one started pink wards, but like back in the day, like season 4, I remember there was a lot cooler stuff you could do. And then the trinket warding was changed because previously you could drop your trinket ward at any point 30 seconds, and you get your second one within a minute of that. So you could do you could do like different warding habits and basically try and scout the enemy team out. But by season 6, I think they changed it to it was dead.
Did you know that your trinket starts its cooldown based off of when you buy it? So
buy fast.
You buy the trinket first always.
Mm-hmm.
Remember, you could drop the yellow one, go back and buy the red one and use it.
No.
That was
I don't remember that.
Or is the other way around? Your jungler would start red trinket, so when they went for an invade, you would sweep their trinket, kill it, and then go back and buy a yellow one for later.
When everybody was starting wraiths in the very beginning, people were like warding it and stuff, right? I started red sweeper. I would kill their ward, and then I realized this is like terrible, and I need my warder.
All right, so another question from chat. Hogath, and I'm excited about this, says, I heard you don't watch LCK. Any reason why? Is this true you don't watch LCK?
It's partially true. Like, I do watch LCK, but I don't invest into it as much as other regions because I feel like LCK is like too good. I've said this really. Like I've said this in a lot of interviews and stuff, so I don't want to sound like a broken record, but
no, it's fine.
I feel like when I watch LCK because I tend to watch like one region and it changes, but I tend to watch like one region mainly and base my play around that. And when I do that with LCK, I feel like I just play terribly. Not because the way that the junglers play is just too different because the region is too good.
Emily, we're both turning to you because I feel like you've
rebuttal.
I know, like,
rebuttal.
But I mean, I don't know what you want me to say. Like, do I think Korea is the best region?
Well, no, I mean, I just
Yes.
it is.
I think there's a point to be made about like they play really high execution comps SKT, right? Where it's like no tank, no CC,
Yep.
no
Sometimes. I mean, even like you could argue, even KT does that with like if they mess it up, they're done.
Yeah, and they messed it up a lot,
Yeah.
and that's like I think to the point you could say like wouldn't
Or like even that Afrika comp where the game was done at like 15 minutes because they messed up like one thing.
right.
Yeah.
And so I think I kind of agree with Moon's point, which is like you could also just draft normal and play standard and not copy them.
That's what I'm saying.
Yeah. It's like sure the best region in the world can play like this really high execution style, but even they are like messing it up a lot.
If you draft like that and you make a mistake, you lose.
Yeah.
And Korea can do it because they're really good. And it's not just that either. Not all of them, but
can do it.
it's not just like the draft and stuff. It's also just the way that the junglers play. Like I personally think in NA, the teams aren't very great. So I feel like I can just go for like a random level 3 gank or something, or do something really creative, and it's fine because I don't get punished for it. But in LCK, I don't see a lot of like super creative pathing.
Do you think that then sets you up for failure if you ever do make it to an international event? Because then suddenly, like, you basically are abusing like a lack of skill in the region to get away with stuff that you wouldn't normally be able to get away with. Then you suddenly go to Worlds and you do have to face off against these teams that aren't going to let you just abuse them. Like, it seems like a bad habit to get into.
I think as a player, I'm really good at changing my playstyle, which is the problem. Like, that's why I don't want to invest too much in watching LCK, because when I do that, I just play worse. And then I'll go back to watching LPL and LMS, and I'm like, oh, I'm really good again. So.
Is that who you're watching these days, LPL and LMS?
I'm not really watching anything right now, but towards the end of the split, I was watching LPL a lot. I was watching EU. I started watching EU for the first time ever. I never watched EU or NA games.
What did you think?
Did you get sick to your stomach?
No, I think they're fine.
See, Travis.
But
okay, Emily's just here to anytime Moon says something disagrees with me.
But I would just watch like wild card kind of like Asian teams generally. Like I even watch some like Japan and stuff like that. And they don't have to be good for me to learn things. Like I can see what doesn't work and what's working in their region and stuff like that.
So just to hop back for a second about like, aren't you scared when you get to international competition, this, that, like, just so you know, 70% at least of like the region does not go to Worlds. So I don't think it's smart to like look past your current problem and be like, I'll start planning for the next one. Like, if Moon's playstyle works really well in NA, sorry to say this, but they got 4th. Like, you don't need to start being like, maybe I should adjust my playstyle, do better against SKT and KT. Like,
sure, I just worry sometimes that North America gets stuck in its own little world and its own little meta, and then
no, they have the opposite problem. I think North America for a long time had the opposite problem where they're like,
well, I mean specifically like when you are only able to train, like we talk about this for years. We've been talking about this where. If the majority of the NALCS sucks, then you're not going to. Whereas LCK can stay strong because they have much stronger teams on average. So then their top teams are able to get better because they have bigger challenges, et cetera, et cetera. And so in a world, what, you don't think this is true?
Well, I mean,
Kobe Bryant went straight from the high school to pro leagues and dominating
because esports is exactly like traditional.
No, but
sports.
you know, metaphors kind of work. That's why they exist, and people have used them for thousands of years. My point is that
build
that's
all of esports based off of traditional sports because
that's literally what I just said. And in no way am I saying that's a total cop out to blame the strength of your region for why we just can't get good. Man,
I think
if Coast just didn't exist, TSM would have won Worlds. That's
I think you're talking about two different things, Travis. Because, like, are you talking about geographical isolation, or are you talking about like attitude of teams?
I
think it's comprehensive. I don't just think attitude. I think it's comprehensive, right? Whereas, I think generally speaking, if you had better competition in North America would be stronger.
Right. That's 100% true.
Yes,
I agree.
And that's what I was getting at.
Competition breeds competition, but there's 2 points. One, I don't think that teams in the middle should worry about international problems. So sorry to say this. I think FlyQuest, middling team, they got 4th. It's results oriented a little bit.
That's one away from 3rd, which is international play.
Yeah, great. And they're not there yet. So don't worry if Moon's style isn't going to match up well in 4 months. Like, worry about beating P1. Worry about getting ready for next season. So that's the other point I was going to make.
Words of wisdom from Mark.
Yeah.
Well,
I agree, though. I think if Worlds comes, then I'll worry about Worlds. You know, if I make Worlds, if we make Worlds as a team, then I'm gonna start.
And maybe TSM can take a different approach, right? Like if you're pretty much guaranteed to make Worlds, like you can start worrying right now, like, hey guys, we've been abusing this one thing to beat all these NA teams, and they even said that during the season. They're like, yeah, we can stick Haunter on tanks and he'll carry, but we want to be able to play other styles.
I mean, it does punish you in NA too, though. Like we had this one style in the beginning of the split, and then that style stopped working, and the meta kind of shifted, and then we started losing every game. So you do also have to look, you know, have more than one style, because if the meta changes, then you just start losing.
All right, so we have about 10 minutes left. I know that you did not watch MSI this weekend, but I do think we have some MSI-related conversation. Emily, a couple points you wanted to bring up?
I just wanted to talk about, TSM, like, first of all, the wildcard play-in was this past week. I know Mark is incredibly familiar with it as he casted it.
Desk.
But basically, like, just to give a quick brief of it, I actually was personally expecting a little bit more out of a few of the teams, and I think as a whole the minor regions represented looked a little bit weaker than I had previously anticipated. So TSM is in their first, the next round of MSI. They're going to be facing Gigabyte Marines, and then Flash Wolves are going to be facing Supermassive, and then presumably, I mean, I think TSM and Flash Wolves are going to advance. So I guess I just wanted to get your thoughts on how strong do you think TSM are going to be at the main event? We're just going to assume that they make it.
Yeah, I think maybe I'm biased because we got completely shit on by them in playoffs and in scrims as well. But I think TSM is really good. And I think they're a lot better than what they showed versus C9. Like, I think TSM is, like, as a team, maybe like a 9 out of 10, and at the time C9 was like a 5 out of 10. I think.
Ooh, wow.
Well, maybe not that extreme, but I do think TSM, like, I was expecting like just a straight up 3-0 or like maybe 3-1 if they lose game 1 or something like that. But I was expecting TSM to just kind of stomp it based off of like scrims and everything like that. And maybe it's just not fair to say because their series was really close. But I think TSM is like really good. And unless if something drastic happened during their boot camp to MSI or whatever during their scrims, I think they'll do really well actually.
What do you think went wrong against C9 to make it go to like a pretty close 3-2?
I don't know. I got flashbacks of the FlyQuest versus CLG series though, because they stomped the first 2 games and then almost lost the series, which is like CLG completely destroyed us the first 2 games and then we came back. I don't really know.
Do you know what happened in the CLG series from their end?
I got Rengar.
That happened. All right, never mind. It's Tony's place to tell you. You can ask Tony maybe.
I mean, still looking back, maybe this isn't the best thing to say, but I feel like CLG was probably the better team.
So I had heard CLG was actually doing like super good in scrims at the time, and were like taking games off TSM pretty regularly. Yeah. So I heard that CLG was supposed to be super good, which I think why it was such a massive upset when you guys beat them, and really cool.
Yeah, I still feel like they deserved that win, but I took it from them.
Yeah, you take that to the bank, dude. Like, no, they're the better team, but I'm the better player. So
I think
brought Evelyn out in the 5th game. You know.
Yeah.
That was
I don't even think it's good. I just styled on them. I was like, yeah, give me that Evelyn. I don't care.
We were behind that game. We were going to lose. In the game, it felt like we were doing really well. And then I watched it back, and we're like, oh, we're down 5,000 gold. How the f did we win this game? And then it's like, oh, Camille dashed into us. Yeah, we won.
That was a pretty bad call.
Okay, so we know TSM is really good, but presumably all the other teams are going to be really good too. So do you, Moon, think that they have much of a chance, like against, because they are going to have to go up against like SKT in the situation?
Yeah, I think TSM is really good, but I think I'm also a huge Flash Wolves fan. So I gotta, if they play Flash Wolves,
you're like probably the only NA pro who would ever say that, right?
What? That
I mean, I think a lot of people who know, because Flash Wolves have competed internationally a lot.
Right.
I feel like people at least follow Maple and Karsa just because they're one of like I don't know, maybe I'm completely wrong and no one knows who they are.
Yeah.
But
I mean, like, it depends who you're asking in North America. I think, like, the casual NA fan might not know of them or might remember them a little bit from Worlds where it's like, yeah, they lost to C9.
In really long, bad, the Flash Wolves games, those are...
Yeah, so they might know them from that. But I think the question is, like, so there's 6 teams in the round robin portion of it and 4 move on. Do you think that there's 2 teams worse at MSI than TSM that would make sure that TSM moves on? Because I think that's the big question is, do they get to the bracket stage?
I think TSM will make top 4. I think.
Who's worse than them?
I don't know all of the teams. So it's Flash Wolves, TSM, SKT.
There's still the play-in part that's going to start.
Right, but those are the teams that
we're acting under the assumption Flash Wolves, Flash Wolves, TSM, and then like let's say Supermassive.
So they're better than Supermassive, I would say, and then maybe they're better than WE. No?
China expert? You said you watched LPL, right?
I do watch China. I didn't watch much. I didn't know WE was actually a good team. So I watched mainly. They had 2 brackets, right? They had 2 separate.
Yeah, they have 2.
So I watched RNG from that bracket, and then I forget who I watched on the other side. But I don't really know much about WE as a team. So.
I mean, so it sounds like it's a soft commitment to them getting top 4.
No, I would. I feel like I would put a lot into it. Actually, I think I'm pretty confident that they'll make top 4.
So your top 4 would be what? SKT.
Flash Wolves.
Flash Wolves, TSM, and G2.
Oh, G2 is worse.
Oh, for sure.
Oh yeah, they'll choke.
All right, let's. I feel like we gotta put something on the line. Like I want to bet between Emily and you because she's like all China, Europe, like gung ho.
So you think TSM? You think TSM won't make top 4?
I don't know. I'm just trying to start conflict. I actually don't know what she thinks. She's like, yeah, she hates TSM. She thinks they're garbage.
Yeah. I do not. What would my top 4 be?
Yeah, well,
that's like actually really tough. No, because like it's weird. It's really actually it's hard for me to rank Flash Wolves because they have a good matchup against SKT. Actually, like so even though I think SKT will take the tournament, I think Flash Wolves their playstyle matches up really well against what you'd want to do against SKT. I've said that before on the show. G2 is so weird because it's all like intangibles. Like I don't want to knock them down for intangibles.
Every time we have asked for 4 episodes, we've always asked Emily for some sort of type of prediction. She goes, well, you know, like there's this and this. Because I run through like
someone else like called me out on Reddit for this too. And it's because I run through like so many specific like team matchups. I'm
you just have to tell you have to say what your gut or heart tells you about these things.
You can just like what I do is I just make things up and then I stick with it. Like I'm like, oh yeah, like TSM is really good. They're top 4.
Yeah.
So these are the teams that'll make it, and then you just gotta stick with it and act really confident.
And then if you're wrong, you just have to come up with a couple excuses for what went like. TSM was really good, but the Turtle got abused. When Double Lift comes back.
You guys might be able to get away with it, but I will not.
So you just have no top 4.
SKT. I think SKT will definitely.
Okay, that's a safe. That's a safe one.
I actually think Flash Wolves will be in the top 4.
Okay, so then you got 2 more,
and then 2 of W and G2.
All right. Well, we tried. What makes TSM so good?
I think Svenskeren and Bjergsen are, and Haunter, their top side of the map is just so good. And I feel like their bot lane was not the best during the regular split, but during playoffs, I think they played surprisingly well. Same with Svenskeren. I don't know, like TSM is just really good. Because I feel like during the regular season, like Svenskeren was kind of inting, and their bot lane wasn't playing that well, but they were still like destroying everybody. So they're just a good team, I think.
So you just think it's on the strength of the individual players. You don't think that this is like a synergy thing, or
I think it's the opposite. I think
coaching staff.
I think it is like a synergy thing.
Okay.
I think Bjergsen and Haunter played super well when they were obviously they played well the entire split, but I would say like the other 3 players, while they weren't bad, it's like it's TSM. You know, you expect kind of more out of them, and I think they weren't really putting up that performance, but they were still beating every other team. So right. I think a lot of it did come down to they just had the game kind of figured out how to play. They would have at least in scrims. The only time I'd ever learn as a jungler, like from the other jungler, was Svenskeren, because he was the only jungler, not that he would like destroy me early, but he was the only jungler that would punish me when his lanes were winning. You know, if top and mid were pushing in, which always happens when you're playing versus TSM, their top and mid always pushes in. He would always invade my blue buff or red buff or something like that and actually make me feel pressured. So,
random question kind of from last episode was we were talking about like MVP. What was your vote for MVP? Do you remember?
I think, going back to the voting, I think I voted for Arrow, but I swear to God I don't remember doing that, and I swear I voted for Haunter.
Wait.
So maybe
I voted for. It's not like you have to be ashamed. We all voted for Arrow.
No, I look at
coming up with an excuse. He's doing what?
He's following the exact pattern.
My mouse.
I voted
my mouse
for Arrow, but then when I saw Hanser was who everybody was talking about on Reddit, I realized I actually voted for Hanser in my mind.
Yeah, maybe that is actually what happened. When I went back and the voting got released, I was like, wait, I voted for Arrow? I think I voted for like Arrow, then Bjergsen, then Hanser. In my actual voting, but in my mind, I was like, oh yeah, Hanser, then Arrow. So, but I think, honestly, I think Hanser deserved it, I think, but Arrow getting it is like not a bad thing. Is that, and maybe Arrow deserved it because
the sky was falling.
Maybe, I don't know, maybe Arrow did deserve it because Phoenix One is like not even a team without him, I think. I think he is like the backbone, at least during the regular season, the backbone for his team.
Right.
Whereas Hanser, TSM is just going to be good, so.
Right. I think that's where a lot of like the arguments came from was like Arrow on P1 is like so important for that team and like half the league could kind of fill Hanser's role. Not be exactly the same, you know, still be a downgrade, but TSM still might get #1 with, you know, Flame or even like as long as his like, you know, communication was fine.
Yeah, but I also think that's just like everyone was playing tank tops and like you can only do so much. You can only look so good when you're Maokai versus Nautilus.
Yeah.
So
I mean, he did have a nasty Camille.
Yeah, he did.
So.
Yeah.
All right, we're kind of wrapping up here, and we'll bring Kelsey on in a second, say goodbye to Moon. But do you guys have any other questions or anything you want to throw Moon's way before we leave? We have the time.
I think I'm good.
Nothing?
I don't think I have any more questions. Just
I think we're done.
Have fun in the off season. Don't lose your mind. You got like four more weeks.
Are you going to go on a trip or do anything fun? You should. You
stream?
Like
I stream, but man, it's exhausting. Like I don't know why, but I can only stream for like 3 to 4 hours now before I'm just like I'm done.
Is the social part where like you have to interact with chat and it distracts me? That's the #1 complaint I hear out of pro players is like, man, when I stream, I'm bad. And I
really enjoy like interacting with chat and stuff like that, but like I don't know, it's weird because I feel like I do really enjoy doing that stuff. Like I really enjoy interacting with fans and stuff like that, but I just get exhausted after like 3 or 4 games, which before I would stream, after Energy, I would stream for like 12 hours every day in off season. And now I'm just, after 3 games, I'm like, okay, I'm done with League for the day. I'm going to go lay down in bed for the rest of the day.
Legitimately, though, you should go out there and do something. You should go take a trip or hang out with some friends or do something because pro players never do. I feel like that stuff is really good for like kind of resetting and refreshing. Because imagine if you do go to Worlds.
Not anymore.
Get on Tinder, dude.
There was a Twitter post yesterday that just said, I'm single, by the way.
Yeah. I deleted it.
I know, but I screenshotted it. I should have, yes, it's on my phone. I should have loaded it up and ready to go.
Yeah.
I didn't think that your relationship status would actually come up on the show, but.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Yeah, no, I mean, but this is good. You know.
I mean, if I wasn't single, I would not be very bored in off season. I would just be like hanging out with.
You should just sign up for Tinder and like tweet about your adventures and how it's going for you. I'm sure that'd be pretty entertaining. A lot of your fans, yeah.
That would actually be pretty funny.
Pro players don't need Tinder; they have Twitter.
Yeah, exactly.
I mean, you can do both.
Yeah, well, head your.
It's not like as you heard, he's pretty bored. I think he's got the time.
Pretty bored. If I kept up that single by the way tweet, then that's my Tinder.
You'd pin it.
Pin
that's going to be the one thing he remembers.
Thank you so much. When we come back from break, we will be joined by Kelsey, and we'll be talking about MSI Play-ins and some predictions coming up and all sorts of fun stuff. So stay tuned after the break.
That's it. I quit.
I'm so sorry. There's no way you get that.
right, Double Lift and I are here at the LCS Summer Finals, surrounded by fans. It's been a while since we've done this, but now Double Lift is going to help me interview some of the fans. Are you ready?
Not at all, dude.
Okay.
I don't know what I'm going to ask.
All right, well, let's go ahead and find some fans. Hello.
Hello.
What is your name?
Richard.
Richard. Okay. Peter, do you have a question for Richard at all?
Yeah, dude, obviously. C9 or TSM? Let's go.
TSM, for sure.
That's what I'm talking about.
All the way, man.
Okay. Next up. Okay, how about her? You got anything? You introduce yourself and ask your name.
All right, what's your name?
I'm Teresa.
Cool. All right, I can see you're clearly a C9 fan. Do you have a favorite player?
Dad. That is my favorite player.
Oh my God. Well, I'm already tilted. That's Sneaky's nickname.
You started that meme. Didn't Peter start that meme? I don't know. Where did that start?
No, I didn't start that meme.
That's okay. We can still say that he started it.
Okay, very good. And we're back. I didn't realize we were going to be back so quickly, and so I was putting my headset on, I think, as the show came back.
I'm always ready to go.
Are you? You were looking at your phone.
No, don't say that. I was right here, ready to go.
Yeah. Well, hey, actually, let's see if this is working because we didn't even get a chance to say hi. Kelsey, are you here?
Yeah, I am here.
Yay! Kelsey's on the show now. Okay. How's it going, Kelsey?
Not bad.
How's
Normal
yeah. Emily says you've been very busy lately. We were trying to get a hold of you amid all the LPL franchising stuff, and you were nowhere to be seen.
Yeah, I've been busy.
What is that? What is what have you been busy doing, Kelsey?
Non-important Travis things. You know, maybe Travis. Maybe I have life outside of League of Legends.
Well, this is great.
I don't believe you.
Because when I went a year ago when I went to MSI in Shanghai, we talked about this, where you were like, "I'm just doing all this League of Legends stuff," and I was like, "Get out there, see the world, Kelsey." And it sounds like you are now. Is that true?
Sure, it makes you feel better.
All right, great. That's what I want to hear. Did you happen to catch any of the conversation with Moon? Were you watching the stream?
Yeah, I watched it. It's just like, I noticed how you're asking Moon, what his top 4 teams at MSI are. And, you have someone who actually watches multiple regions.
No, but I think it's interesting to find out what the pro player perspective is, right? Because sometimes they're a little bit more unique.
I think it is too, but the way in which pro player perspectives are unique is that often they don't watch other regions.
By the way, I turned to the right where I do have someone who watches other regions, and I asked her what her top 4 picks were, and she gave me 2 and then said, and some of the others. Okay, so
I'm not even going to be mad at Emily for not giving a prediction. She didn't give a prediction. And by that is she kind of was like, these teams are kind of good. It's like, tell what the teams do, Emily. Come on, let's go.
Well, that's what we're going to talk about later.
Okay.
What are the matchups?
Yeah, I kind of understand that. Like, don't want to spoil the second half of the episode.
Yeah. Whatever.
Yeah,
anyway, Kelsey.
At least give a waffle answer. Let's keep us entertained for like a half hour until Travis forgets what the answer.
Just say some random stuff and then just don't hold yourself to it. Be like, no, I was just lying.
Kelsey, did you have any thoughts on any of the Moon stuff? Because I know you weren't here to chat with them, but I'm kind of curious if maybe there's any kind of follow-up conversation from that chat.
I think she had some pretty good points about just like making sure that he keeps his brand and things like that. I don't want to drag on a little bit too much. We can go ahead and move on because I know we have a lot of stuff to talk about still, right?
Yeah, well, I think while I was getting my vaccinations for Brazil, Emily took a hatchet to the list, so we have less. But let's go ahead and hop into some of the stuff. I think the first topic is this, Emily, as you constructed the show notes, is what is the strength of TSM going to MSI? Is that our first topic?
Well, we already asked Moon that, so it'd be the more interesting matchup.
Sure. Okay. So first topic here is Mark's topic, which is the more interesting matchup Flash Wolves, Supermassive, or TSM and Marines?
Right. So the question is, which of these two do you think will be more fun to watch? When I say more interesting, like what will be more enjoyable? If you're a fan listening to the show and you're like, I'm going to watch the VODs at some point, or like, whatever, which one should I watch? Would you think would be the more interesting one? And So for people who didn't watch the play-in stage so far, Supermassive went 5-1 in the group. Their one game that they dropped was after they had already secured their spot in there, and then there was this insanely bloody game where you could tell that they really didn't care at all about the outcome, and they just fought all the time. It didn't look anything like they did in their other 5 games. But when you watch their other 5 games, they were relatively clean. They understood how to do what they wanted to do. They had good drafts. They weren't super interesting, but they ran like shield comps with the Caitlyn and destroyed the other teams. On the flip side, the Gigabyte Marines were the first day really unimpressive despite going 3-0. They basically were losing or even for most of the games, would make like one call that the other team would lose to, and then the game would just be over. And it wasn't like they were doing something impressive the entire time. Second day that they played, it was a little bit better, but once again, the day was over by the second game. Yeah. So the next couple games they played were not super serious either. So it was a little hard to tell how hard they were smashing people the second day because it felt like people didn't care as much. So a little hard to get a read on the Gigabyte Marines, but at the very least they seem decent. So going up against TSM, is that a more interesting matchup, or is it the Supermassive versus Flash Wolves?
I wish Marines were a better team because I think that their play style in and of itself is this kind of like aggressive skirmishing style, which would be really good if they knew what to do like after winning a skirmish or after killing someone, which they, I mean, I didn't really see a lot from this weekend that told me that they would be able to capitalize on any of those. Like, so even if they end up skirmishing against TSM, I don't think they'd be able to take a lot from it afterwards. And I think TSM will kind of slowly just choke them out, or they might actually, if they, because Marines won't necessarily pay attention to whether they will win a fight. They'll just kind of fight. And then I think TSM could be taken off guard from that. But I think eventually Marines will just take a disadvantageous fight and TSM will win. I just wish they were a better team because I think stylistically that kind of fighting skirmishing style would be really interesting to see against what TSM do, which is a little bit more controlled and playing around topside. Whereas Marines are more mid and jungle focused.
I think that's the big one for me is that like when you look at the team and like how they play, like you were saying, it should be good against TSM because their jungler Levi is kind of a beast. Like not the smartest, like, oh my God, he's all over the place. He's reading the other jungler, but he can force plays and make things happen. And so you would say like, okay, if he can force enough plays and they get ahead of TSM, they should close the game out. But because they're just not quite good enough of a team, it's like you don't think that a 2K lead, a 3K lead will be enough against TSM.
Yeah,
not at all.
I mean, you guys tell me, and talking to both of you, I think before this, there was a thought that neither of these are going to be very interesting games. Like, it sounds like you guys are betting so hard on Flash Wolves and TSM that, and Emily, in the first half of the show, you were talking about how you were disappointed by the strength of the wildcard teams. I mean, it sounds like both of these will probably be kind of stompy.
Yeah, I mean, I think they will be just because the overall level of the wild card or the minor region play-in was really a little bit worse than what I was expecting. And I was already thinking it would be pretty difficult because they did move it to best of fives, which I actually, personally, I really like because I think it definitely makes sure that the better team makes it out. But I also think that I think it'd be it would be unlikely to see one of these teams take like a best of one, never mind a best of five.
I mean, like everyone aside for like the Supermassive feels like they were struggling with macro and they resorted to just grouping up as 5, trying to vision control poorly around Baron and then start fights. And that's how every game kind of turned into at 25 minutes. And if some team had a gold lead, the other team didn't know how to play from behind, and they would usually get baited into one of these fights and lose. So like TP advantages were not exploited. Vision control was not super good. People like hardly ever 1-3-1. And if they did, they like would get caught out in the side lanes every time that they 1-3-1'd. They were like constantly basic mistakes with their macro play. I think that's where she's coming from, where it was not what we were expecting to see. Like we didn't think these teams would be like, oh, I'm watching TSM C9 finals game, which by the way wasn't great, but this is like even lower than that.
Well, I agree that the basic macro mistakes are really high, and I really do favor Flash Wolves and TSM to make it out. I think that we need to remember that TSM and Flash Wolves like also make really basic mistakes. Like I mean, it happens. Just like forgetting to take blue buff for 15 minutes. Also, other option, like I've seen Karsa do like these really weird, poorly set up mid flanks where he just like goes all in, and he has a very gung ho kind of I want to gamble, I'm going to take this risk personality that could be exacerbated. Like it is exacerbated, and like Flash Wolves do dumb things against wildcard teams. I don't think they'll take a best of 5, but I do think like a game is within reason.
Sounds very interesting.
Very sloppy.
An exciting 3-1. Where TSM or Flash Wolves messes up and loses a game.
Oh, I was gonna say, she was talking about how Karsa like sometimes loses his mind and does something just because he wants to gamble. Do you think that is more likely to lead to Flash Wolves dropping games than TSM dropping a game? Because Supermassive plays, like we said, decently, and they run like a lot of these kind of shield comps. So like if you throw a lead to a shield comp, it's kind of hard sometimes. Do you think that'll make that a more interesting matchup than TSM versus Gigabytes?
Yeah, I actually kind of do just think that you have to say that Supermassive, no matter which team that they would face, would be the more interesting series in general, because Supermassive are going to do more interesting things. So even if they get completely destroyed, I think that they'll have like better concepts and better compositions and things like this.
All right. Well, I am super hyped for these matches now, which are happening strangely on Wednesday and Thursday.
That tilted me. I thought I had like a relatively off week. I was like, this is going to be great. I'm going to relax. And then it's like, oh, wait, I work every day except Sunday, and then I continue on.
Yeah.
I was pretty bummed about that.
Wait, are you working on Friday?
Friday's the only day off.
Okay.
And then...
So when you say you're working every day except Sunday...
No, that was last Sunday. So I did Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday off. Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday off.
Sorry, buddy.
I'm sorry.
Well, it's a grind.
It's esports.
Esports is a grind. All right. Now, one thing that was really exciting this year is that Riot decided to take the wild card event, which previously was just kind of cast on the wind, nobody really paid attention to it, and link it into a more holistic MSI experience, thus creating a 3 to 4 week long MSI event starting in Sao Paulo, traveling to Rio. This is a new format, and Mark and Emily think it sucks.
Well,
that's the phrase that they're used.
Wow.
Literally, you're like, I asked beforehand, I was like, the topic, which is going to show up right here. Oh my God, that was so good. Anyway, it says play-in stage format sucked. And I asked them, is this what you wanted to say? And Mark's like, yeah, I put that in there.
Well,
so now's your moment to talk about how it sucks.
I'll clarify a little bit, because it's not the play-in stage that sucked, which was kind of how you were phrasing it there.
That's what you wrote.
I said the format.
It says here, play-in stage format sucked.
Yeah, and the way you worded it was that the play-in stage idea sucked, which is not the problem. The idea to take the international wildcard qualifier and lump it into MSI is actually a great idea, I think. And you saw that like the viewership was way higher than it usually is for this kind of stuff. Yeah. People are actually watching. We were at 100K for a lot of the event, which I don't think is the case previously for international wildcard qualifiers. And that was a great decision.
Was that on the English stream? Or
the Riot Games stream.
Okay, yeah.
And then there was all the other ones too.
So because I'm sure Brazil was really high.
Brazil was, depending on if Red Cannons were playing, was anywhere from 20 to almost 100,000 as well. And then you lump in the Turkish one, all the broadcasts. It was actually pretty good viewership.
Yeah.
So obviously the idea was good. The problem was the format, because on both second days, everything was decided before the broadcast was done. So on day 3, after the 4th game, the last 2 games didn't matter. On day 4, after the second game of 6, everything was decided.
Yeah. And so then there were just
4 games of nothing mattering. And so when you end
matches, right? 4 matches?
4 games. It's the same as best of 1. So that's the problem with the format, is that like you had roughly 30% of your games not matter. And if that's the case, then they need to do something to fix that.
Now, were they just unlucky because certain teams are better than others, and they bet on there being higher parity or between all the different teams, or what?
I mean, I don't really think they did, because the initial draw, right? They'd already separated teams into pools, and as it turned out, well, actually, VP was a little, yeah, but at least for Group A, like for the most part, I guess they did understand that like there would be regions coming in that, previously had better showings at international wildcard events than other regions. So I think they did know that even within those regions, there's a significant gap between the best team and the worst team. And I mean, one thing I was really so the one thing I liked about it is that you don't have to prepare for 7 other teams, best of 1
right.
only.
We talked about this on previous shows.
Yeah, like that is something that I know a ton of people are upset about. Basically, you lose 1 game to 1 team, you don't get another chance to play them, and you have to do a ton of prep work. So I was really happy that happened. But I mean, I know a bunch of people suggested that we basically split the groups. So like, you know, there are 2 matches or 3 matches from Group A, 3 matches from Group B, and then it swaps basically so that you have a little bit more, like it lengthens it out so you don't have the same problem where there aren't as many games at the end. I mean, it still could happen, right? But there would be fewer that don't matter because like yesterday was pretty ridiculous.
Yeah, I was on the desk, and when you have 4 games that don't matter, it is such a struggle to fill like 10 minutes of airtime. Where it's like, oh yeah, they ran into each other and tried Kog'Maw to 2v2 against Twitch 10 times, and they right. I learned a lot about that. That was cool, I guess. So that stuff's really hard to fill. The only problem I have with the idea of splitting it like that, so instead of having 6 games from Group A, you'd have 3 and 3, 3 from A, 3 from B on a single day. The only problem with that is, hypothetically, you could have day 4 not matter at all. Like, you don't even need to play day 4 because everything's decided by day 3. So that can hypothetically still happen. What I would have rather have seen is just seen some flex scheduling. The way you see later on the LCS season, it's like, this is a really important game. Let's bump it to later in the day. Yeah. So that way, when these 2 teams play, that's something hopefully still on the line. Because what happened in day 4 with Group B was that the number 1 team played the number 2 team, and if the number 1 team won, it's over.
Is that fair to the teams to move their schedule around?
Yeah, they all play each other every day. Every day that they play 3 games, 1 against every other team. And it might change how you prep and how much you get to see out of that team, but it influences both teams the same way, where if I was playing you in game 2 and they decided to make it game 6, well, great, we each get to watch each other's games a little bit more. Yeah. And so it's still possible that like the game ends up not mattering because the second place team dropped their games. But at the very least, you can like increase the probability of those games mattering. Because what happened in day 3 was that the second place team dropped a game, and it made game 5 not matter, which was supposed to be the really hyped game. Right. So that can still happen, but it just made, I think, the viewer experience worse. It made everything was just way worse because it wasn't like Worlds where, there's the first place and second place team that gets out of a group of 4. So there's, even if first place is super decided, second place probably still matters. Here it was like, well, once first place team has a stranglehold in the group, there's literally nothing to watch for. Yeah.
Kelsey, any thoughts?
I think the other problem I would have with mixing up the groups is that it makes sense to give teams like a day to prepare for their next round and things like that. So I actually didn't have, maybe because as a spectator, it's not as important. I don't have as much problem with there being like a lot of games that don't matter as much, because in the chance that there is like higher parity in the group, I think it's fine. It feels really crummy, and also it messes with like your ability to sort of guess what the wildcard teams will do against in the next round and things like this. So, and it also makes it hard for TSM and Flash Wolves to sort of prepare for these teams, because it's like, how much of this was the game not mattering and how much is the stuff that we actually have to know how to play against and things like that. So, there are a lot of issues, but I actually don't mind that much because there's a better case scenario. So unless there's like a really, really strong alternative, which maybe flex scheduling is good, but it just doesn't feel as strong. It doesn't. I don't have as big of a problem with it.
Yeah, I think we all agree that this is better than what they had done in the past, both in terms of lumping it in with the actual event and the groups. It's just unfortunate how much some of those games didn't matter.
Yeah. Kelsey wants to take a look back at regular season losses. And again, I missed the pre-production meeting, so I have no idea what this means. Kelsey, what does this mean?
What this means is that so mostly I was looking at WE and like kind of how WE matched up against RNG and EG, and it's like, okay, if we look at the regular season losses of some of the top teams, because a lot of the teams going are super dominant, but they had a couple losses. Like, if we look at the way that some of these teams lost, and since we all watch TSM, they might be the best team to pick, like, can we kind of guess, like, how poorly they would do.
Sorry, how poorly they would do in what context?
Or like what would be a good strategy against them?
Like,
or something like this.
For example, TSM lost to Team Liquid because Double F kind of smashed Turtle in lane. Like, is this something that we need to be worried about going forward?
I gotcha. Well, Mark, is it something we need to be worried about going forward?
I would have said more so before the finals. I thought Sneaky and Smoothie, being arguably the best bot lane in North America, would probably abuse Turtle, but they were fine for the most part in that series. So unless one of these teams has like a really dominant bot lane that they try and win through, it might not be that bad. Like, I think SKT's bot lane can take them apart depending on the matchup pretty easily. G2's bot lane, I mean, you guys obviously know more than me, but are they like lane dominant, or is it that Sven's just really good? Like more like an arrow type?
I mean, it really depends on the day because Mithy has been struggling a lot more this split, but historically they've just been really good. Like, I mean, most of the time when teams come out of Europe, G2 is a bit of the exception. You have like more lane focused in terms of like they really want good laning matchups, things like this. I think that Sven and Mithy are definitely a bot lane that could be really, really hard pressure TSM's bot lane for sure. China is now a bot lane region again. I don't know if you guys missed that. But Mystic and Ben are also very strong. They actually swapped Zero out because they thought Zero wasn't good enough in lane anymore, effectively. Or at least this is a theory that people have. Really, what happened is that Mystic and Zero were not as like driven or committed or weren't as practicing as hard, so they thought changing the bot lane would change that. But Ben made them a lot stronger in the bot lane, so they will play towards bot a lot more. They will play towards winning lane really hard. So I do think that there are definitely some bottom lanes in this tournament that will like give TSM a little bit of difficulty.
I think for North America, at least, that's the big loss to look at, because a lot of other regular season losses from TSM came early where against C9, they were just not on the same page, as C9 was clearly pretty together. And then they lost to Echo Fox, who like ran them over with early game one time when TSM was still kind of sketchy. But since then, I think the only really exploitable thing for TSM has been jungle and in bot lane.
Yeah, I was going to say, I think a lot of TSM's early losses came from their inability to play around topside. Like, for as good as Hanser has been, they really struggled to make that shift from playing around bot lane to playing around top. In terms of other teams, it's weird to say, but yes, SKT do have weaknesses, even though people like somehow don't think that they do.
Travis's eyes went wide.
I know, he's like, what?
Aren't these guys the guys that always win? That's that team, right?
Yeah. And I mean, I'm not saying they're not going to win, but if you are attacking SKT, I think what you actually really want to do is snowball early advantages. Like, I actually really liked, even though I thought their execution was awful, I really liked some things that KT threw at them.
Haven't you said SKT's really good at playing from behind, though?
They are, because when other teams make mid-game mistakes, they're the best team in the world at punishing them. And that is why people find them so difficult to beat.
What if you give them the advantage early and then you play from behind and they don't know how to deal with it, so then you just come back?
They know how to play from ahead, too.
Okay. So they know how to play from behind and how to play from ahead.
So you try to get a.
I mean, my point is, if there is a team that has a really good early game, they have strong lane assignments, they know where to swap their AD carry to take turrets early, they execute all of that, and then know how to close out a game, that is a team that can be SKT. That's why I actually think Flash Wolves have the best matchup stylistically, even though I wouldn't say Flash Wolves is a better team.
Yeah.
Yeah, I would say the Flash Wolves have the best matchup stylistically against SKT, for sure. I think that we kind of have sent a lot of teams from LPL, NA, and G2 that aren't like going to hit you super, super hard and rotate the bot lane early. Yeah.
Who would Flash Wolves match up poorly then against? Because it sounds like if a lot of the top teams like aren't dominant early game, that they have actually a decent chance of making like a good run, right?
Still think Flash Wolves over group in the mid game. So teams that can like maintain a 1-3-1 through mid to late game, or teams that are just gonna out team fight them, generally speaking. So I think that's a thing.
Yeah, so most of the teams in that regard might have better mid game than them.
Kind of. I mean, you could say that. I don't know if I would say necessarily mid game, but just their ability to understand when they want to just leave their bot lane separate and rotate, or if they can 1-4 or things like this, like understanding how to execute their composition all the way through the course of the game is how I would put it. I don't like to say
you losing
like,
it, Kelsey? Just like
get a flashback.
The way that you're executing early game and mid game isn't going to be like, okay, I'm just going to leave this rant for something else.
I think I know what you're saying.
Yeah.
The point is that I just think that like also WE is really weird about Baron. Like they have this kind of history with Baron where for a while it would just be like Condi's really good at smiting. Okay, so we're going to like stall out the game, pick scaling comps, and we're going to bait them to Baron. And for some reason, Condi is just going to smite the Baron every time. It was really dumb, and I'm glad they don't do that anymore because it stopped working. Because teams figured out, oh, we can just ward the Baron better, or we can just set up to split better. But I think that like that's a team that could do well against Flash Wolves if they kind of like overgroup or if they opt into a 5v5, because I do think WE is still a really good team fighting team.
Yeah. All right. Anything else on the topic? Otherwise, we will head to break. Boom. All right. So we'll be back from this break in just a moment to talk about LPL franchising and more.
Hey guys, Avalime with Yahoo Esports, and I'm at the Phoenix One House with Nori. You're going to be my tour guide for today?
Yep.
Sweet. And I noticed this sign right here. It says, keep the doors closed, otherwise the cat will run outside. So there's a cat here?
It's somewhere. His name is Rangar, and he likes to hide in
Rangar?
bushes.
Hey everyone, I'm here at the Phoenix One House. I'm going to get a tour from Nori. How's it going, Nori?
Not bad, not bad.
All right. Is the house sick?
I'm not sure what other houses you've been to, but for my standards, I think it's pretty sick.
Okay, cool. Well, that's very good. I have my Travis cam here so we can get some close-up shots of stuff. I can already tell there's going to be a cat here because of the sign. You guys got the cat. We've referenced this previously.
It was mostly for Ryu, but now it's kind of just the team cat, so everyone's been taking care of it a bit.
We'll find out when we can find the cat. Oh, there's an alarm going off. Things are already going terribly.
Somebody's breaking in.
Well, let's take a look at these shoes. These are like the really expensive ones, right? Like I don't know much about shoes. I'm not a sneakerhead, but this is like a thing, right?
Some of the players they like shoes. I'm not that big on it. I just wear Vans and.
What is this?
What?
This little creature thing.
Oh, like, these are arrows. Slippers. Yeah.
Okay, that's definitely unique.
Yeah, he's a funny taste.
Okay. Take a look over here.
Yeah, here's the best part.
Okay, and that's the cat.
Yeah.
All right.
Let's just wake him up.
So we could just stop now that we have seen the cat. That's pretty much the most exciting part of the tour.
Yeah.
The cat is not happy about being woken up.
It's okay.
Are you bringing the cat on the rest of the tour?
For now.
We are back. Hope you enjoyed the little video about the P1 cat.
Always ready to go.
You were not ready to go.
No, I was. What are you talking about?
You didn't even. I just asked you about a cat, and you were freaking out about something else.
No, the cat was cute. I don't know. I like fatter cats.
Yeah.
Yeah, I like the fat cat that just like sits on you and is your homie.
Kelsey, how fat do you like your cat?
I'm okay with. I don't discriminate based on body type.
Oh, okay.
You know, I don't like to make the cat feel bad.
Yeah. Well, that's
all those skinny cats.
Yeah.
Stress eating now.
Brain guard joke or something? I don't know. Anyway, LPL is franchising. This is a topic near and dear to my heart because it's both LPL and franchising.
Travis's two favorite things.
Yeah, and no, I mean, I am very interested in this topic. Kelsey, do you want to sort of take us away and break this down? I don't know if you want to do it, or Emily. I know she wrote the article, but you're literally in China, so.
I mean, yeah, it's very exciting. So there are a couple of things that I can talk about that weren't in the initial announcement, which is that it's not going to be like very suddenly in the summer. All of the teams are just leaving Shanghai, like just right away. No.
Well, explain what because you're referencing this, and I think a lot of people probably don't even know that there's talk about being in other cities.
So the franchising thing is basically the teams are now permanently in the LPL. The teams that stayed in the LPL for summer split are now stuck there. I make that sound negative when they're probably really happy. But the thing is that eventually it's going to expand more. Like for a while, they're going to keep promotion and just do away with relegation. So they'll expand it out to 20 teams. But then over time, like the second part of this is that each team will have their own city. Like EDG will go to Guangzhou. No one who follows LPL is surprised by this, though I'm sure you don't necessarily even know where Guangzhou is. But
it's in China.
I could point it out on a map.
You'll visit there if you go to World, so it's very exciting for you. But Guangzhou, I guess OMG want to go to Chengdu, things like this. So they will stay in the city, and they'll be like the OMG Guangzhou people or something.
And then do they fly to each other's stadiums or whatever to compete?
They'll fly, like every week theoretically you fly to, or you take a train to a different location. Like I said, it's not going to start with all of them moving right away. It's going to be 3 or 6 teams moving for summer. And so most of the games will still be in Shanghai, but there will be some games moving to other cities on the weekend. It's really weird because it's like in the last two years, I feel like these Chinese teams built these really elaborate and beautiful like industrial bases in Shanghai. It's just like, never mind. Like OMG just finished theirs this year. It's really funny.
Yeah, but now they get to own a city, right? From like a business perspective, that's probably very attractive to them.
I mean, theoretically, but I don't know if it's necessarily like that exciting. Because you still like people. I feel like people will still just cheer for the best Chinese team.
Maybe.
I think that's my biggest concern between franchising and geolocalization or whatever you want to call it. Where I don't want geolocalization really to be tied in with it.
Yeah, I don't think I want it either. But I could see how it makes a lot of sense in China, where you have a huge, like here we can like go fill up multiple studios. Yeah, we're getting a little bit of an echo. Maybe you can turn down your volume a little bit, Kelsey. I don't know if it's super loud, but in North America, I don't think that we could fill up arenas in New York and LA and Seattle and all this stuff every weekend. And I think the logistics of it are kind of hard. But I think in China you probably can. And I've heard, and correct me if I'm wrong, Kelsey, that it is like the travel between these different cities is not actually that bad.
It's not that bad to travel between the cities. But it's still like you're going to have, I think it's actually going to hurt the competitiveness of LPL relative to other regions.
Yeah, because they'll have to travel all the time.
They'll have to travel more, and you aren't like implementing this yet. So it seems really weird if they're only going to implement it in China. Like I kind of doubt it. And then like the LGD owner heavily implied that this type of thing will be rolled out in multiple regions. And he was like surprised it wasn't being rolled out to all the regions at the same time. But
so you're talking about global localization. Yeah. Like sorry, you're talking about localization in different areas. So it sounds like you're saying he was surprised that we hadn't announced that like San Francisco is getting an LCS team and New York is getting an LCS team or something.
Yeah, he was surprised that he hadn't announced that this type of thing would be implemented in NA and EU and stuff at the same time, because he thought it was supposed to all come out at the same time. The point is that I don't think China has its issues issues besides just, and like if you go to the LPL in Shanghai every weekend, Shanghai, one of the most populous cities, it's still not full every weekend. Like for the regular matches, it's not full. So like for me, that's kind of a concern. Like they want to, I know the impetus for this or the motivation they said, because they basically announced that they wanted to do this at the start of the split. In the press conference, they said that we want it to seem less like stigmatized, where it's just people playing video games in a basement. We want like fans all over China to actually be able to meet these players. But beyond just like filling up the stadium every weekend, I think there are other issues. Like every time you take an international a Chinese tournament to a place that isn't Guangzhou or like Shanghai or Beijing, there are massive tech issues. And I'm not just talking about like small, tiny cities that shouldn't get tournaments. I'm talking about like cities that aren't the elite, like top 3 or 4 cities. So I think that in China, I think that this is that's my big concern, is if you're going to give an inherent disadvantage in terms of internet infrastructure to some of these teams.
What has the reception from the LPL fan base been?
I think it's been mostly positive, but...
And how do they feel about both the localization of the teams as well as the lack of relegation and kind of this permanent thing?
I think that it's mostly just a reaction to, okay, well, sorry, Avicii Gaming, you know. It's a little bit it's a little bit sad. Like, I haven't looked as much into the Chinese fan reaction because I've been mostly caught up in my own world because I didn't want this to happen, but I knew it was, I don't know.
Yeah, is that why you've been busy? You've been running around trying to get it canceled? And holding emergency meetings?
Well, I don't know. So we talked about this a little bit before, right? When we talked about whether or not NA should be franchised or EU should be franchised. And it was based on the idea that, okay, we're constantly seeing better teams get introduced to the LPL. Does that mean that we should see and kicking out the worst teams? Does that mean that the teams right now are going to be really good suddenly just because we're implementing franchising? No. It means that they're probably going to keep the really, really crummy teams staying in the LPL, and we'll see better high quality teams get promoted. But I feel okay, what LG do every split, and what they will continue to do every split is they just lose games until the end. It's oh, I guess we got to try now and not get relegated. That's not going to change. And they get to keep their LPL spot. This bothers me, Travis Gafford.
Do you think that's a legitimate problem? Because that's one of the number one things I hear for North American fans and why they don't want franchising is because, all these teams are going to turn to bottom feeders and they're just going to suckle off the success of the NALCS for money. And it's most of these teams aren't making so I don't know if that's a common fan opinion in the LPL.
I don't think that that's an opinion that teams are suddenly going to just bottom feed. I just think teams that are already bottom feeding are going to bottom feed.
Right,
So.
and currently I don't really see that in NA right now. There's definitely resource problems between the teams where some teams don't have the tools to actually fight against the top teams in talent acquisition and things like that. And you would argue potentially franchising is an opportunity to actually fix that versus hurt that, and maybe because there's no real...
I mean, I don't want to go down this road too far, but I don't think that's the case anymore in North America. If you look at pretty much all the teams are VC funded now, or TSM. I guess not CLG. CLG might be the one example.
CLG and Envy doing?
Envy does have VC funding. They have the money that they need, but I think they just lack
so then
the skill set. And then I don't know. CLG seems to have locked their players into contracts, so they can't get rid of them anyway. So I don't know, but I don't know. I am very interested to see how this LPL stuff works. I am happy that they are not rolling it all out at one region at a time. This is the first time, especially hearing the remarks that you heard from the LGD owner, that I have been a little worried that Riot might secretly be thinking about localization in North America. I haven't heard any rumors about that, but it is worrying to see that they're doing this hand in hand in China, and that there were people in China that specifically think that this is happening in some of the other regions.
Is that what the manager said? Not just that, I'm surprised they didn't franchise around the world at the same time, but was he including the localization thing in as well?
Yeah. I'm pretty sure he was including the localization thing, yeah.
Yeah. I mean...
Based on that I actually watched the clip instead of just reading the translation that was on Twitter, so.
The weird thing about franchising, franchising is a very specifically North American thing that began with baseball, and it went hand in hand with geolocation because it was basically first people were just trying to make things less amateurish because they had just massive structural issues. So a bunch of baseball teams were well, we're gonna form the professional baseball association where you'd pay $10 to get in, and then one guy came along because he'd basically kind of not fudged, but he'd technically broken the rules to sign one of his players. So he was well, I want more more certainty kind of in what we're doing. And so they formed what is now the National League, but basically that came hand in hand with territorial rights. So all of these random teams like the Middletown, Connecticut Mansfields, like, they don't really matter as much as Chicago or Boston. And initially what happened is that I'm pretty sure like they actually had a huge problem with one team winning like everything all the time. And then the way it evolved with like far later on with broadcasting rights and stuff like that. Like, it's really weird to me that I don't see. So first of all, in esports, like in esports specifically, there's no reason for geolocation for me because, and like, I guess the argument against that is what Kelsey said, where people were saying, well, people from all over the country really want to meet like these players. They want to support a team, or like, I know a lot of people who have been following the Overwatch League have said publicly, well, it's better for these players and these teams to be able to establish their own fan bases in like really specific geographic locations.
You also unlock local revenue.
Yeah, exactly. But I think there's a couple of weird things about esports. Like, first of all, I don't think traditional sports can ever be a one-to-one with esports, and I don't think they should. I don't think people should implement franchising just because it's what is done here. Therefore, we must follow it because that's what's always been done. So that's what we're used to. And it kind of does seem like that with so many of these traditional sports organizations entering the scene, providing a lot of money for these esports teams because people have told them there's money in esports, but they don't like they're used to franchising. So they're like, okay, well, we want to make sure that our team isn't going to get kicked out, so you kind of have to promise us this for the future. The geolocation thing is just really unnecessary to me because I would just rather be at a place with better internet where everyone can kind of practice against each other. Like, I don't really see the point in wasting the money for travel. Like, I don't see the return on investment for moving away. That's the real thing. Like, so I understand historically why franchising is tied into territorial rights, but Riot doesn't have revenue. Like, there's not going to be. Is there going to be revenue sharing? Like, what is Riot doing? Like, are they going to be the overlord of the league? Because typically, when you say franchising, it means the franchises in traditional sports. They are the league. And they enter a collective bargaining agreement with the players who are unionized. And by the way, League of Legends players don't have a union. So like, I think there's like a lot of things about traditional sports franchising that people are kind of like sweeping under the rug, or like maybe they don't understand that it's the teams themselves and not like the NFL are the franchises. Like, that's pretty much one and the same. They elect they hire a commissioner to represent them, but like, they are the franchises. Like, I guess my question is, where is Riot in all of this? Like, what role are they going to play? How much power are the teams going to have? And then where are the players?
Yeah. Mark, you were going to say something?
I don't even remember anymore.
Yeah.
Sorry.
It's okay.
No, it's good. It's good. It's so what I think would be inappropriate for us, and maybe in the future we should just have a 30-minute part of the show that is literally just us discussing franchising and all this stuff, because it continues to come up. But I was surprised to hear that LPL was franchising and that they were announcing it so quickly, and that they didn't wait until, normally I feel like in between seasons. Yeah, in between seasons is like when you probably announce this stuff. Do you have any idea why they kind of seemingly rushed it out, Kelsey?
I had heard basically until the announcement that it was going to be for 2018. Yeah. So I really don't know.
Maybe just pressure from the owners or something. I don't know. Because we all know owners generally probably want this stuff. So, well, it's interesting. I'm excited to see how China works kind of as a guinea pig, although they are super different than every other region and maybe the most unique ways.
Right. That's one of the things I hear like a lot of people saying is like, oh, well, at least we'll get to see how it works in China. And I'm like, I mean, regardless, that doesn't mean it's going to make sense like for us. Like, oh, yeah, they have a bunch of cities and they put them in different locations and it looked okay, not bad. And then like, so how do you do that in North America? Like, you have Santa Ana and, like
Anaheim.
Yeah, Anaheim. And then you have, or are you actually going to do like Chicago and Boston? It's like, because that sounds awful.
All right. Go ahead, Kelsey.
I was just going to say, there are some ways where I think it would be surprisingly similar. Like, I do think like the local fan bases won't be as large as people might anticipate they are in China. And I also think that like the Chinese teams have existing team houses where they have other esports also like stationed in the same team house, and so that kind of practical element will be something that can be applied globally. It's like, oh, does this work? Is this good? Is this bad? Etc.
Yeah. The one thing I will wrap this up with is something that I come to sometimes, and maybe this is I get accused of being a riot shill. Maybe this is the one thing I say that feels very, very shillish. But before the LCS, when I heard that all this stuff was coming, that there was going to be permanent league and that there were going to be less and less working with these third parties and tournament organizers and all this stuff, I actually did talk to somebody pretty high up at Riot and said, like, you guys are going to, this is going to be a disaster. What are you doing? Like, you can't do this. I'm really worried you're going to piss off everybody in the industry. Are people going to watch games every single week? And like, are they going to watch like game 5 or week 5 games or whatever? And I had a great deal of skepticism about the LCS. And then I cannot think of a better thing to happen in esports in the past 5 years. I actually really, really think that the LCS was a great system and that it came around at the right time and it did a lot for esports. So
they also had like Korea as kind of a guinea pig, because I mean in season 2 there was champions spring and summer, and they were both really successful, and there were European and North American teams traveling to Korea.
Sure. So anyway, I guess all I'm saying is oftentimes change looks scary. Maybe I'll be surprised at how many people show up to these stadiums or something.
I mean, I have been actually like pretty pro franchising.
Yeah, I mean, I have been too, but I just mean even with the localization and kind of the rapid implementation of franchising,
some of that
which
stuff
kind of makes me feel nervous, but yeah. All right, so now we're into questions from chat. There's one question that has come up a ton. That was about Dandy. Where is it? I can't find it. Hopefully somebody asks it again. Okay, Bedamen, which I'm gonna paste this into our little show notes thing right now. Do you think G2 will finally be able to perform at an international event? We talked about this last week, but I'm happy to bring it up again, especially given the fact that we're coming back to MSI. What was kind of our general conclusion last week?
Mine was that I hope they do. Just because they, like, again, I myself have struggled with using extenuating circumstances of the past 2 years to kind of knock those against G2, but there were a lot of reasons for the team environment to be bad. I know we touched upon them in previous shows at their first mid-season invitational. I don't know. I want them to go in with a good mentality and hope they do well.
Yeah, I think that was the big takeaway. Was at the MSI the first time they kind of flopped. It was very understandable, and then Worlds was not like a good reason. It was basically, I think, was like they lost the first couple of games and panicked and choked and then sucked, and maybe not have been that good from the beginning.
Okay, here's the question about Dandy and GBM. It's you, ITYSU. I don't even know how to spell it. What are your thoughts on Dandy and GBM potentially joining E United? ESPN posted a report earlier this week about that being the case. So if that does end up happening, what's everyone's thoughts?
I think Kelsey should go first, and she actually probably has the most knowledge on Dandy.
The Dandy thing is a little weird because he was on VG Gaming, and he actually was one of the reasons I would tell people to just watch VG Gaming, because I thought that he was still really smart, still really strong as a jungler. But then after that, he took kind of some time, and he was like hard stuck in Diamond and Korean solo queue and kind of goofing off. And I don't know if he was just resetting, because I actually did interview him briefly. And he had made a comment very publicly about wanting to go back to Korea, not even to play, but to just like have a break, because VG lost so much and it was always so hard to just stay in LPL on VG. So that I really don't know how he's going to do, but I do know that even when he was in that state, he was playing really well. GBM, I feel like GBM is just like he didn't play that much solo queue when he was even in NALCS. He didn't feel like it kind of got to him a little bit to have I think, players who were inexperienced and that he constantly had to teach. And now he's going to be in NACS, and they have the same coach as they did on Energy and all these other factors. So I don't really know. I think will be interesting, but I don't really have high expectations.
I'm pretty pessimistic about it. I don't think it'll work well. So even if Danny was playing well in China, I'm not super impressed when someone who didn't have international success previously in terms of when they swapped regions. I don't mean Danny won Worlds. I understand, yeah. But when you go over and actually play in another country as an import and not having great success, I don't know why it would work just because you're in North America now. Same with GBM.
The opposite normally happens.
Yeah, they do worse.
Well, they go to North America and then they go to a different region and they perform a lot better.
Yeah. Either they did great and they came to NA and then they don't do great.
Yeah. Or they did crap in NA and then they go to like Europe or something like that.
I mean, that was only really a couple examples.
A
handful. But the point is that I just don't know why this would work. Like GBM didn't work with Energy, and you can say that there were a bunch of extenuating factors, but like those are going to come up again. Like the problems that he had did not get fixed. Like NA solo queue is not now a joy to play. He's going to have players who fill in that are pretty inexperienced, assuming that United's keeping a lot of their rookie players, because they can basically keep Licorice and then the bot lane of Deathly and Zazel exactly the same. And then you just plug these two guys in, and now they don't speak English, which was one of the benefits when they had their mid jungle before, which was, I can't remember their names, Fox and Gilius, yeah. So like, as much as you want to harp on those guys for not being great, they actually did fine in the Challenger series, but at least like they could communicate with their rookies and stuff. So,
well, I think GBM speaks English, but like my thing with Dandy is like he was still so good when he left China, and the thing that makes me pause is the fact that he took time off. Like if this was say like he had continued to play. And he played at the exact same level he did, and whatever, Vici still gets relegated, or it's a world where he was playing this past split and it was on par with what he played previously. I'd be like, okay, Dandy is going to be like, he will look amazing. Like he's still really smart. He still can completely shut down his opponents. The weird thing to me with United specifically is you touched upon this a bit, but I actually liked their rookies a lot better than their imports last split. I thought the rookies were definitely more of a standout on that team. Kelsey's laughing at me, so maybe she disagrees. But
no, I'm just remembering Gilly. Like,
he did some interesting things. But so like I like the core of NA players they have. GBM's kind of for me, like he was playing jungle for a while, so there's like this weird gap in his mid-lane performance too, presumably because like he was really hard set on being a jungler for a while, and then Dandy took time off, and those are the things that are giving me pause. Like not like, oh man, GBM sucks because he sucked on Energy, or like Dandy sucks because Vici sucks. Like that's not at all what I think. But the timing is really weird. That's the only thing that makes me kind of a little bit worried.
The thing about Vici that makes me willing to give Dandy the benefit of the doubt specifically is I know that team environment is really not fun. So
yeah, it's kind of on the GBM point, similar thing where the environment Energy was not fun, but even beyond that, like I just don't think GBM is like the import type player you want. Sure. You want a superstar, and I know this is a Challenger Series team, it's not gonna be the same level of competition, but even before, like when they initially imported, then that roster was announced with GBM coming in the first time, and Energy was a new team, and everyone was geeking out and placing them like number 1, number 2 in the league. I was like, what the hell is everyone talking about? This team's not gonna be good. And then lo and behold, they like limped in the playoffs and lose in the first round. And then they got worse in their second split because, like we said, the team environment was not great. But like, I just don't see GBM as like I'm going to smash you in lane and spread my resources and like take over. He's like a great team fighter and team player in a situation where he's not going to be able to communicate fluently. I know he speaks English, but it's not. Yeah. It is not like, hey guys, do this stuff, play around me this way, blah blah blah. Like it's not that level of communication. Last question.
I'm Vase says, what is the most stacked role at MSI?
I'm gonna go mid lane.
Yeah, just because Faker's there, you know?
No, because like, so I'm looking at, like I already said, like mid jungle is that's kind of the pairing I'm looking at. And from everything from like the wild card teams all the way up to SKT, I think the strongest, like arguably the strongest player on every team, or the second strongest players, is their mid laner. I think obviously like TSM plays through Bjergsen, SKT plays through Faker, Flash Wolves, like it's almost entirely like Carson Maple for the first part of the game to like set up like why their early game is so good. It's Carson Maple. Xiang is really good. Perks really stepped it up towards the end of the season and playoffs, so he's been performing really well. You just have a lot of really strong mid laners across the board, I think.
I want to say every region except maybe Europe, because you can make a case for Febiven and Yankos, sent their best mid jungle duo, I think. Not necessarily like their best mid or their best jungle, but like as a pair, I think this is kind of a unique situation.
Yeah, I was trying to think if there's another role, because like everyone's mind instantly goes to the mid lane, and I don't think you would say bot laners for a couple of these teams. But I thought maybe tops could be fun, but just because I think I just really want to watch Huni Haunter again.
That'll be fun.
A little selfish as an NA fan.
Yeah. All right, so we're done with questions. Sorry, Seal Wolf. Everybody wants us to talk about TSM and Double Lift and 6-man rosters every time, but there will be time after MSI to discuss TSM with Double Lift, because he's not there for MSI for sure. That means that it is time for our favorite part of the show.
Oh God.
This has become a bit of a tradition here on League Weekly.
The most forced tradition in history.
Many people don't know this, but we have one of the foremost experts and critics in anime
No, you don't.
online blogging here with Emily Rand. And so Emily Rand is going to give us for the third week in a row, her Emily Rand's anime pick of the week.
I'm struggling to keep up.
Did you get through Polar Bear Cafe yet?
Didn't get through Polar Bear Cafe. Okay. I don't know how it happened. I just got busy, you know.
Yeah.
Polar Bear Cafe will always be there. I guess the thing I wanted to introduce this week is called. I actually wanted to introduce the first anime. Like there's an OVA called Gunbuster, but I can't find it legally to watch. So the second OVA, Gunbuster 2, it's just really fun. There's a lot of like it's a great story. It's kind of like Gainax at one of their best.
What is Gainax?
It's an animation studio before everyone left. Basically, they had a lot of like really strong animators. I won't get into it, but anyway, lots of explosions, lots of great animation. It's really fun.
What is is it like an action or give me the genre?
No,
like
it's a romance with explosions.
I mean, there are romances with explosions.
It is like I guess like sci-fi robot show.
Okay.
Yeah. And it's short too. It's like it's a direct to video animation, so it's only like.
So again, what is the name of it?
Gunbuster 2. It also goes by the name of Die Buster.
Yeah,
I believe it's available to watch for free.
Somebody in chat is really excited about it. Also, the Twitch chat just all went super excited and put emojis up for the anime pick of the week. I'm very excited. It's our most popular part of the show. All right, so that is again Gunbuster 2, Emily Rand's anime pick of the week here.
Let me know what you think about it next week, Travis.
League Weekly. We'll be discussing that, I'm sure. I won't. Maybe I'll watch it on the plane because you and I are headed to Brazil.
That's true.
Before the next episode. So next week, Mark Zimmerman will be hosting.
Is that confirmed? Because no one told me.
It's confirmed. We're confirming it right now.
All right.
Mark Zimmerman will be hosting the show because I will not be here, which means you'll have an even better show than normal. And we're figuring out guests right now. If you have guests that you'd like to see on the show, please let us know because we have no idea what we're doing. Anyway, it does air normally on Mondays at 2 p.m. Pacific. We'll have to figure out if that's happening next week because we've been on this Tuesday schedule for a little bit. We also release podcast versions onto SoundCloud and working on getting that over to iTunes soon enough. Also shows up on YouTube and on our website as well. So be sure to subscribe and check out the site. For everyone else, wait, you know what? I want to say goodbye to you guys. Mark, anything you want to say?
Goodbye, Travis.
Is that it?
Have fun in Brazil.
Yeah.
I will not be there. I'll be at home making content about it myself. So follow my Twitter on screen right now at the Mark Z.
Yeah. Emily?
I will be in Brazil, so it should be a fun time.
Are you you're excited? I mean, for people that don't know, you started kind of covering League.
Yeah, so I am really excited about it because I've been following Brazil since late 2014.
And you'll go there and not be able to do anything with any of the Brazilian teams.
Wow.
Except for party, because we're going to party because it's my birthday while we're down there. And Emily, much like Emily's anime pick of the week, she's also got Emily's Brazilian club of the week. Really, of
I
the
told
day.
you to just talk to Revolta, okay?
Yeah. She's got a spreadsheet actually. All right, anything you want to promote?
I have some SKT stuff coming up. Some stuff about the play-in stage, and then I'll be doing stuff obviously once I'm down in Rio. So.
Very good. Yeah, we should figure out what it is you're going to do. We'll figure it out. Finally, Kelsey, sorry we didn't see you for the first hour of the show, but what's going on?
Yeah, so I will be in China, which is only vaguely relevant to MSI. But I will continue to do content. I've got stuff coming out there will be a cool interview with Perks, an interview feature, and I just did a feature on why Bjergsen is still the MVP of TSM.
Nice.
There will be more stuff like that.
When are you going to do a double lift one?
Why double lift on the bench is the MVP?
I did mention double lift in the article. I said, some people argued double lift should have been MVP last year, but they're wrong, Travis.
Well, all right, that's the show. You can check out the rest of our stuff over here on Yahoo Sports. Thanks for watching. Tune in next week. It's going to be great. See you from Brazil.